Just starting the Zoom. Thank you. Yeah. um, Good to see everyone. Happy New Year. You might want to mute that. Let's start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome. Thanks so much. And yeah, thank you. We're really excited to do this. And my daughter needs to go to bed. Great. Without any further ado, let's start with the public officials. Don't see anyone today, so I think we'll just start with the reps. Yeah, so you figured it out. Like, just hang out here until your comment, and then you are free to sit wherever you'd like. Although, we do have Dan Wiley and Tiffany Javaria from Congressman, Nadine Alaska's office.
If they like to come up.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Feel free to come up.
All right. Oh, we can come up.
Yeah.
All right. We will try to keep it short. I'm Dan Wiley from Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez's office. Samantha Johnson, you've seen a lot of coming to your meetings. We have another member of our team here in Queens who's brand new, Tiffany Echevarria. So she's going to say a few things. I just wanted to orient you, Congresswoman Velasquez wishes people a happy new year. She's the ranking Democrat on the Small Business Committee and also on the Housing Subcommittee. And of course, tenant rights and affordable housing is a key priority for her. And she appreciates all the work that people here, Sunnyside Community Services, as well as Councilwoman Julie Wan and everyone stepping up to help the tenants impacted by the fire, which is heartbreaking, and more needs to be done to have the landlord take care of the tenants and what they're going through. So I wanted to thank Sunnyside Community Services for setting up the GoFundMe. And also that there was flooding on September 29th around those days. And there is a disaster declaration that happened. And we want to make sure you are aware that there's resources available. I'll hand it over to Tiffany to say a few words about that.
Thanks, Dan. So yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm just going to briefly state some facts from this disaster loan that is available for you guys. So people that were severely affected by the storm on September 29th, you are available for different types of loans, disaster loans. And these loans could include physical disaster loans, economic injury disaster loans, and home disaster loans. These are available for businesses, nonprofits, homeowners, and renters. We have flyers over here in the front. If you do want to check it out, we have more details available for you guys. Just wanted to mention some deadlines. Physical damage loans, the deadline would be February 2nd, and for economic injury loans would be September 4th. The website and the number is on the flyer in the front if you guys want to check it out.
Thanks. And lastly, I mentioned on environmental issues, flooding is a problem. We want to be able to prevent flooding from storm surge, but the Congresswoman has also been pressing the Army Corps to deal with rainfall and sewer backup and all of that happens throughout the district. And there is WRDA coming up, which is the Water Resources Development Act. Also, just a note that the Congresswoman is going to be doing a ribbon cutting for a hydroponic lab at LaGuardia Community College. She funded 20 schools in the district, including here in Long Island City and Sunnyside, to have hydroponic classrooms for kids to learn. And so this is a certificate program that LaGuardia is going to be doing to teach the teachers on sustainability and urban agriculture. So I just wanted to mention that that's going to happen on January 23rd at 1 p.m. Thank you. Okay,
Congress?
so we can get back to you on that
Yeah.
particular act. Which act is it?
The Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act,
Affordable Housing Credit
Credit
Improvement Act.
Improvement Act,
Okay, we
to
can get your,
strengthen the housing tax credit.
okay, I'm sure she's supportive of that, but Tiffany will get your information and then so we can follow up with you more on that particular legislation.
Anyone else?
And one note about the disaster loans, most people saying, well, I don't really want a loan. Unfortunately, it's not a grant, but the terms of it is if you have credit card debt, you can actually turn it into an SBA disaster loan at a much lower interest rate, not pay it off for a year, and then have 30-year period to pay it. So there's more information on that if you need it up here, but we wanted you to be aware of that since the deadlines are coming up for it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next, we have Evelyn Lee from Grace Ming's office.
Thank you, Antoy. Hi, this is Evelyn Lee from Congressman Graceman's office. I'm going to keep it really brief. I just want to wish everybody a happy new year, and we are looking forward to working with you more. But to echo on what Daniel and Tiffany just said, Congresswoman also is trying to get more funding and resources for a lot of things we need in the community, including the infrastructure and the flooding related things. So if you need anything, if you think there's something we can do to push for that, and definitely reach out to our office. And we're also gearing up for more events and more reaching out to the community. So we are including like one veteran services day in February, and we are trying to do more things like that with different agencies to bring the service to our community. So if you have any advice, suggestions, and ideas, please let us know as well. So happy new year. Thank you. Any questions? Sorry. Okay, thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evelyn. Okay. Julie One is next. Councilmember Julie One.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's so good to see you all. I'm Julie One. I'm the current council member representing the district. I wanted to make sure that I came personally to give you updates from the fire. So I'm coming from the fire site right now. We've been there all day since the morning because we were given 24 hours notice on Tuesday that starting Wednesday, people had to vacate their apartment for certain units within 3-hour windows. But we are not being provided where they should move their belongings to or how that would be done. Luckily, we have a wonderful community. We had a team of volunteers. We had at least 15 to 20 people volunteering for each shift. So we were able to move them to storage. I have been able to work with storage unit companies locally. We just got another storage unit who agreed to store items for free for 6 months. So yeah, so we're really, really thankful for our local community. We have another unit that's giving up for free 2 months and then 3 months, 50% off. So we have a lot of these deals. We're also working with Barn Truck Rental, who's giving a discounted rate to rent trucks as well. Then we had volunteer drivers who were willing to drive some folks to storage units or wherever they were going. So we're so grateful for that. The next set of moving dates are going to be Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. until 11-ish. And then they let you move again from 1 until 4-ish. So we're continuing to work with the landlord. So we had about 104 units displaced, and HPD, so Housing Preservation Department, as well as Department of Buildings, have both deemed the apartment inhabitable, and it's under vacate order. About 60% of these units are rent stabilized, which means that we've worked with Red Cross as well as HCR. My office has registered almost all of them. I think we're missing like 4 or 5 people who are rent stabilized, and we're still trying to make sure that they get registered. which means that for those rent stabilized units, through DHCR's application program, they can reserve their apartment for that rate for $1 during that time until it becomes habitable again. So that's good news. Bad news is for market rate renters, the 40% of them that are left, there is no way to keep the rent that they were paying for those units, and there's no way to guarantee that they can move into those units back again when it comes back on the market after the construction is done. Unfortunately, so Tuesday night when we got the email asking us to vacate, we also got another email from the landlord saying that they're going to have significant rent increases. So we were unhappy about that. So now press is involved. We're making these things public. But I do have to give them credit because they're the only landlord that I've seen so far in our neighborhood, as we've had fires where they offered to house folks in hotels. So initially, Red Cross only offered to house folks in hotels until the 27th of December. We asked for an extension. I know there's a representative from the borough president's office, Donovan Richards, as well as Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. We all asked for a further extension for the holidays, and the landlord paid for the hotels until January 2nd. We asked again for another extension. They gave us until January 5th. And then as of this morning, now they're going to pay until January 9th for the hotels. So we're grateful for that. And they've also offered all 104 units a replacement apartment in another apartment that they own. It's just not in Sunnyside, because Sunnyside, unfortunately, we are a very popular neighborhood and there's not enough buildings, especially 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, because a lot of these are families who've lived here for more than 20 years. So if you personally know of anyone who has property or knows someone else who can rent property or short-term rentals, we're looking for anything in the neighborhood to keep people here, because a lot of people are going to school at Children's Lab, elementary, or at the middle school, IS 125. So they want to stay in the neighborhood. And we have a lot of seniors in the building who want to stay in their community, especially those who come here to Sunnyside Community Services. So please feel free to let me know at my office if you know of any availabilities, because that's what we're struggling with. Because if they don't, the offers that we're getting from the management company are in East Harlem, Kew Gardens in Queens, JFK in Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. And even though it's great that you can pay the same rent and you'll have a roof over your head, you'll be very far away from home. And this is their home. So that's what we've been working on for the fire tenants. My office is also still operating as a free store. Thankful to the community, we've been able to get hundreds of brand new coats. We have 4,000 new socks that were donated. We have some underwear that was donated for men, women, and children. The underwear goes really fast, as well as toiletries for any fire victims to come and grab any time of day for their needs. So we're going to continue to operate in that way. Thank you for everyone for volunteering and donating. We're really grateful. So that's the update for the fire. Any questions so far about what's happened with the fire? Yes.
This afternoon, I volunteered. I was down there for 2 hours. I actually carried 2 small bags, distance of 15 feet for 7 seconds. That was in 2 hours. I was one of maybe 24 volunteers who sat around or stood around without being able to do anything. The management was only allowing, I believe, 1 tenant at a time to move out. Those tenants were forced to carry small boxes down the stairs and out the front door. It's just not working that way. They would not allow any of the volunteers in the building to assist. Otherwise, the dozen of us who were there could have gone up, grabbed the box each, and been out of there in an hour.
Yeah, I tried to address it with the company today, and by the afternoon, they were letting a few people go in, but it's just ludicrous, which is why we've been trying to handle it privately, but now we've gone public to press, and we had ABC7 there today, Eyewitness News, and we've also had NBC come, and we also had Spectrum One there the whole day, because they need to stop lying. The reason why we didn't know that we needed volunteers until this morning is because they went on record to the press last night and even before saying, don't worry, we're going to have professional movers there for you. No, what we found out today that we have recordings of that was already live at 4:30 and 5 o'clock news and will be on again at 7 o'clock news is that They are cleaning crew, as in cleaning ladies, mostly like women over 50 who are 5 feet tall. We recorded all of it, and they are mostly like small Latin American women who are being forced, there's no elevator, being forced to carry these things from the 6th floor downstairs by themselves, and no one else is allowed to help them. We weren't even allowed to open the door for them. So we've addressed this, and then by the afternoon, they started to allow a few people in, but they're being very, very strict. We're trying to get them to allow us to help them. But just know that the tenants are extremely helpful. Like, they are so grateful, because otherwise it would be by themselves, having to move their apartment, a lifetime's worth of their things in 3 hours. And that would not be possible without your volunteers, even if you felt like it was not efficient. It definitely wasn't. It's out of our control, but we're trying to do the best we can. And just remember, this is their first time going into their apartment. Can you imagine your apartment's on fire, you have water damage, fire damage, and they let you in for the first time, and they're like, okay, 3 hours, move your shit, or it's gonna go in the trash. So thank you for volunteering. Yes, Ben.
Just quickly, is there a sign-up sheet for the reminder of the volunteering slots that are allowed if actually there is an agreement that's worked out?
So right now, we've asked for people to just show up. So it's gonna be Monday and Tuesday, 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. and then let me just get my phone so I give you the 1 to 4. So people have just been showing up, and some people were so nice. They brought food for the volunteers, and like even the movers, not movers, the people who have to move were able to get a bite of food in, because this took more than 3 hours. Any other questions about the fire?
How long will your office be running the free store and collection?
As long as people are willing to give us free things to give away. But I just need to make it clear, crystal clear, we cannot accept used items, because we work completely in partnership with Red Cross, the same way that we have been with Red Cross here, right across the street is my office. Because of bed bug and lice outbreaks and risks that we've had, we cannot accept used items. And I thank you, because I know Woodside on the Move and Queen of Angels, Patrick Martinez and John, and a lot of community board people volunteered on Christmas Eve to laundry the used donations to make sure that we're not giving people anything unwanted in a time of such need. So thank you for doing that. And Woodside on the Move is handling giveaways of used clean items, but we still have an abundance, because we have to remember these people don't have storage to store their things, or don't know where they're going to live, that you can't just give them all these things. They're only going to take a few items that they can wear currently until they figure out their stuff. So I know everyone wants to donate, like every single day, someone's showing up with like a garbage bag full of things to my office, and we're like, no, we can't take this. So please refrain from giving us used donations right now until we figure out people's semi-permanent housing. And then from when we understand what people need, from furniture to clothing, etc., then we'll work with the community to get them those items. And also, we have been really grateful. I think Sunnyside Community Services GoFundMe raised more than $100,000, and we're so grateful for that. And not to be a party pooper, but just remember, 104 units divided by 100,000, that's $1,000 each. So if you see those individual families who have GoFundMes and you have $25 to spare, $10 to spare, please go ahead and make those donations too. And then also know that we're working closely with them for legal services. Legal Aid and my office have been with them since the night of the fire, and we've been working with them every single day. And because of privacy reasons, and because it's going to be legal matters, we're not discussing publicly what we're doing with them and what's going to happen. And we're keeping that all private for the best interest of the tenants, but know that they are receiving legal services, and we are working with them. And we're also working with the tenants to figure out how many of them are taking the negotiated offer to go to the same, go to another apartment that A&E is offering, as to people who aren't, people who are going to be in temporary housing. If they're not rent stabilized, we are working with local landlords to figure out what's available and matching them up as well. So we have a whole operation doing that as well. Okay. Anything else about the fire?
I just want to say really quickly, about 15 years ago, I went through a similar experience, lost all my possessions, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great opportunity to remind people, because I was one of those 70 or 80% of people that did not have renter's insurance at the time. Renter's insurance is very, very inexpensive. It starts as low as $150 a year, like 20 bucks a month, $15 a month. So I strongly recommend anyone to go to the New York State website for insurance, find out information about renter's insurance, because your landlord's insurance does not cover the contents of your apartment. And it also covers, you know, lots of things like if you were robbed or that kind of stuff. But also, if you do get insurance, be sure to look for replacement value, because then if your old TV that's only worth $20 gets destroyed, they'll pay to replace it, not just give you the 20 bucks.
Yes, thank you for that reminder to make sure everyone gets renter's insurance.
Yeah, quick question. I believe we have buildings in the neighborhood that are coming online through the affordable housing lottery. Is there any way to stack the deck in the tenant's favor?
Yeah, we're working with HPD. We're working with HPD. So here's the strangest part. So if we had allowed the government to continue paying beyond the extension, then it would be a smoother process. It wouldn't be easy, but it would have been a smoother process for us to transfer the HPD long-term stays into HPD affordable housing. But because the landlord was generous and said, no, I will pay for it. Now we've removed them from the HPD temporary housing, and now they're in a private hotel, and we're trying to put them back in. So it hasn't been a smooth process, but we're working on that for rent stabilized tenants. But we also want to help market rate tenants as well. So you could always feel free to reach out. We have been on deck along with a lot of volunteers. Thank you, since the night of the fire, all throughout the holidays. So we will continue to be operating. I also want to remind you that today, all of the discretionary funding applications for nonprofits is live for City Council, including my office. You can find the application on my website. That's live for discretionary funding. In addition to that, this holiday season, some good, bright news. Thanks to all of our donors from the district, we were able to distribute more than 2,000 toys to our NYCHA residents, as well as our shelters. Every single shelter child got a toy for the holidays. And we are also able to provide toys for Eid for our Muslim community coming up, as well as Losar for our Nepali and Tibetan community coming up. So thank you so much for those donations to make our children feel very happy. In addition to that, we are also continue to work on constituent services. We are sending out a roundup of everything that we've accomplished our first year in office. And we're just really excited to start our second term. Thank you for the continued support. If you have any other specific questions, I'm happy to answer, but I know that a lot of folks have had questions about the fires. I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys a full update of everything that's happened since then.
So 2 questions. Number 1, appreciate the idea that you had regarding the food situation in our shelter, transferring it from the purveyor that's providing the horrible food to restaurants in the area, giving the restaurants an economic boost. Love the idea. Is there an update or anything we could do to help push that?
So what? Yeah, the mic is terrible. So what Tom Matusas is referring to is, as the chair of contracts for the city, last term, I held an oversight hearing especially because of all the pegs that are happening across the city by the mayor. One thing you should know is, like, for the November plan, the city council still has not received a budget modification from the mayor's office, which means that we haven't even had a vote on the budget yet. So that's 1. 2, because of all of these things that they are making as an executive decision, I held a hearing on our migrant spending and our shelter spending, because they are referring to this migrant spending as a scapegoat or a reason for why we're in debt of almost $7.8 billion. So we are spending a tremendous amount of money on food that's being thrown out into waste. And what I've done in our district is partner with organizations like Rethink Food and Queens Together to use our city funding to give those contracts directly to our local small businesses, like local mom and pop restaurants like La Adelita and others, to deliver hot meals to the shelters instead of cold meals or frozen meals to our shelter residents, so that they are getting culturally competent food. They're also getting halal food, so that if they have religious restrictions or kosher food, that we're able to provide it for them. The city is now moving away. This is going to start to get very technical, but the city is now moving away from emergency contracts, and they are now going through competitive bidding, which means that by law now they have to go through the process, which will require them to work with whoever is the cheapest, lowest bidder per state law. So there's nothing that citizens can do, but we will continue to advocate to transfer those contracts to make sure that there is better meals being served and also helping our local economy, because we don't want to see any more small businesses shutting down or shuttering their doors because the economy is not doing well. Yes.
Taken for South Sunnyside Park and hoping that the 29th Street Park is in the lead. A little plug there.
I don't think it was a poll, but we're currently in search of new plots of land for green space, because we have heard from many community members on how much we have a desire for increase in public green space. But the Parks Department has a lot of requirements on what qualifies. So we've crowdsourced from you all, the public, on your desired locations, and the Parks Department is vetting it. And then we have to go through the costs and the design of how much it would be for feasibility. And we will have updates in the future because of the holidays. We haven't heard back from parks yet. Yes, Kat.
Hi, Julie. I have a question about the contract changes that you just mentioned. Is it going to also come with some additional disaster preparedness or relief funding from City Council to like the local organizations who are on the front lines of these kinds of things?
No, because for disaster, like FEMA relief, it comes from Congress. So the city doesn't really fund that kind of work. And what we're referring to is just food contracts. So for food contracts, the only people that would actually qualify for these contracts are food source nonprofits like Rethink Foods and Queens Together, who've already been doing this work.
Oh, but that's what I'm saying is like, in addition to the contracts, like there's also like, for example, Woodside on the Move, like organizing, logisticking and all of those kinds of things. Is there going to be some additional funding for that? And then
No.
also the second thing is about like, you know, we don't want, like you said, we don't want to see our small businesses be closed. So what plan is there in place, or is there going to be additional funding for small business like disaster relief or preparedness?
Not for disaster relief. It's going to be completely separate. Every stream of funding that you apply for is a very specific grant or a contract itself. For example, Woodside on the Move already receives $30,000 just for food pantry work. But you can't force a nonprofit to do disaster relief work. They would have to say, I have the bandwidth to do this, and I'm going to apply to this specific grant for disaster relief. A contract is very, very specific per service that the government is requiring. And what we're talking about is just for food sourcing, not for disaster relief.
And so this also relates to like the city council initiatives and such?
No, because the city council does not have disaster relief funding. It's going to be separately from either from Office of Emergency Management or FEMA or whatever government agency that specifically does that work. Okay, yes.
With the contracts, so I know that not just with food, but other contracts related to the migrants haven't always been the best organizations. I'm thinking of one that was running shelters. I can't remember the name. Will that also be under this? The least expensive is the one that's picked, or are you going to look at, or not you, but is the council going to look at the better service provider?
So during the hearing, we asked that same exact question because, for example, in our district, we have more than 20 shelters just for migrants. And we have more than 30 shelters for overall homeless population. So in total, we have more than 30 shelters in this district. And out of those shelters, we've had numerous complaints about certain shelter providers, yet they continue to remain. And when asked, DHS, Department of Homeless Services, literally had no answers or data points to share with us. And when we did more investigation along with the controller's office, we found out that for the year of 2022, since we were still in 2023, the 2022 report and the 2023 mayor's management report showed that Department of Homeless Services had less than 8% reporting and data collection from their providers, less than 8%. That means that the Department of Homeless Services, when they say, I don't know, it means they genuinely do not know. And that is a huge problem because that's illegal.
I believe there were contracts entered into by the mayor under his emergency order that awarded 9-year contracts. That doesn't really seem emergency to me if it's a 9-year length of time. Is there any way we could reconsider those contracts that were awarded for 9 years?
The controller already has now retracted the mayor's ability to have new emergency contracts and renewals without the controller's approval because of these issues that have come up, especially with .co. No, if you have been rewarded and there's a violation, then there is disciplinary measures and there's a whole set of practices that go in that may terminate the contract. Yes.
Thank you, Julie. My question is for the awareness. I am the Woodside resident since 7 years. So what is the FDNY initiative for this kind of prevention? And our District 26 can take any initiative for our safe neighborhood for any guidelines for prevention this type of loss?
So every single fire is individual case by case basis. This specific one should have not happened. It is the landlord who had a contractor that was unauthorized to use a fire torch to do lead abatement in a building. So if it's already illegal, you can't prevent someone from partaking in illegal activity, but there are enforcements that the agencies provide from those who do illegal activities. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. It's so good to see you all.
All right, next on for the reps, Victoria Lee.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Leahy. I'm the Chief of Staff for Assemblymember Stephen Raga. Happy New Year to you all and congratulations to the new e-board member. Looking forward to working with all of you over the next year. Earlier this week, a session reconvened for the 247th legislative session. It was a very, very short session, and over the next coming weeks, we'll get a better sense of the governor's priorities as well as the People's House priorities, especially on January 9th when the governor reveals her State of the State address. For upcoming events, we are hosting a housing legal clinic with CORE at our district office on January 23rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you or somebody else is experiencing housing issues, especially as a tenant, please call our office to schedule an appointment so you can speak directly with housing attorneys. We are also organizing 2 drives at the moment. We have a toy drive in partnership with La Jornada and Council Member Julie Wan's office that will be closing out tomorrow with the giveaway to happen on Saturday. And we are also organizing a canned food drive as well as a toiletry drive with Solution to Hunger that will run through January 18th. You can donate any items to our district office between 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then finally, for homeowners, I'd like to remind you that this is the time to either file or renew your senior citizen homeowner exemption or your disabled homeowner exemption. If you are a constituent and you'd like to file or renew your exemption, please call our office to schedule an appointment so that we can help you file your property tax exemptions. They will close in the middle of March, usually March 14th or 15th, but if you have any questions about the deadline, please call our office. And with that, I'm happy to take on any questions. Yes, hi.
Hi there, Victoria. Thank you for being here and so on. I want to ask you about the open meetings law, and we know that the revision to the open meetings law that allows some potential, and we're going to discuss the hybrid format. But the whole thing is going to sunset at the end of this session in June, the end of June. And I've heard that there are people who are working on proposing some much more progressive approaches. Do you know who they are? And I'm presuming that Assemblymember Raga would be supportive of that, because we have, even tonight, we have members who are not here because they have childcare responsibilities and they can't be here. Otherwise, they would be here and participating meaningfully.
Thank you for the question. I believe there is an assembly member who's currently working on extending and revising the open meetings law, but I can't remember the assembly member at the top of my head, but I'm happy to send the information to the community board once I get in the office.
Yes,
tomorrow.
I'd be particularly personally very interested in finding out who that would be.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, next is Brenda from Assemblyman Ardila's office.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brenda Quinquino. I am the constituent liaison for Assemblymember Juan Ardila's office. Before we begin, the member and myself would like to wish everyone a happy new year, and I hope you all enjoy the holidays with your family and loved ones. During the month of December, it was a pleasure to join the holiday season with multiple organizations within our community, from Centro Paraguayo de NY in Woodside. We joined their end of the year performance at IS 125. The assembly member was proud to present state proclamations for the organization's incredible work and certificates to students for excelling in their studies and extracurricular activities. And celebrating our Jewish brothers and sisters as we joined a menorah lighting with JCC Shabbat LIC and their synagogue. Now turning our attention to a matter of great concern, I want to discuss a distressing event that unfolded during the holiday season in our cherished Sunnyside. On December 20th, a devastating fire engulfed building 4309 43-09 47th Ave, causing extensive damage and leaving over 500 tenants displaced during the holiday season. In response to this unfortunate event, our office swiftly mobilized to provide assistance. We provided tenants with rent reduction order forms, directed tenants to Red Cross registrations, distributed clothing, hygiene kits, new socks, toys for children, and pet supplies to all tenants affected by the fire here at our Sunnyside District Office. On January 2nd, the Office of Assemblymember Juan Ardila joined forces with the Legal Aid Society to extend a valuable service to the tenants affected by the Sunnyside fire here at Sunnyside Community Services. Through this collaboration effort, free legal consultations were provided to offer crucial guidance to over 100 tenants. The event aimed to provide detailed information about the next step for the tenants, enabling them to make informed decisions and stay updated on ongoing proceedings. We have been working nonstop with management, nonprofits, and state agencies to ensure the tenants' basic needs are being met. The assembly member was giving updates by A&E, and it was confirmed to him that the extension for hotel accommodations was approved until the 9th. As of now, they have until the 9th to decide their relocation options. Tenants are not being forced to leave tomorrow. A&E also sent this in writing. Management has begun to schedule the removal of personal items within the units of the building that are able to be assessed safely at this time. Given the serious damage to the building and ongoing construction, access remains difficult, so management is providing residents with a moving crew to assist them to pack up their units and move items out the building. In order to give every resident the same opportunity to retrieve furniture and belongings, and because only a limited number of move-outs can safely happen at a time, management will be offering morning and afternoon windows over the next several weeks so that everyone has the same opportunity. Okay. If any resident needs any additional window to retrieve belongings, the management will arrange it. The first time slots for today and early next week for residents of the sixth floor who have not been able to get their units due to excessive damage. We will be working all the other residents in the building to provide them access to their units. If you have any other questions on what we shared today and the ongoing updates, it can be directed to our office. And at 718, you can call our office at 718-472-0648. Thank you.
And and then live mic today.
Hey, now that I have your attention, my name is Claire Collins and I'm a community board liaison at the Office of Queensborough President Donovan Richards. Thanks. I don't want to be redundant because you guys already heard about the fire like 3 times, but I just wanted to quickly say that as Julie mentioned earlier, there was a hearing between all of the government, the city agencies and elected officials that represent Sunnyside on the day of the fire. And we're going to have another one of those tomorrow. So regarding like the HPD issue that Julie mentioned, we're going to try to get that worked out tomorrow. And after that, I'll be back with more updates about that. So that's the fire. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so I'm proud to announce that our office has launched our community board application on our website. Yeah, it's live. The application will be available until Friday, February 16th at 5 p.m. So we kindly ask you to spread the word to any passionate, civic-minded community members who may be interested in serving on any of the 14 boards throughout the borough. If you're watching this on YouTube, come join. I also have the list of the applicants who need to reapply. If you think you might be on that list, please ask me and I can let you know. Sorry, I left my glasses on the table. Yeah, if you have any other questions. My bad, guys. Sorry. If you have any other questions in regards to the application or the process, please feel free to reach out to our Director of Community Boards, Khalil Bragg, at kbragg@queensbp.org. We have a couple events coming up. I'll make it quick. On Wednesday, January 24th at 6:30 p.m., we're hosting the 220th Haitian Independence Celebration at Queensborough Hall. And then on Saturday, the 27th, we have 2 events. One is our Queens Tech and Job Fair, which will be held at the Jamaica Performing Arts Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then that same day, January 27th, we're hosting a basketball game between Queens elected officials to support January, which is Mental Wellness Awareness Month, at St. Francis Prep High School at 1 p.m. So if you're interested in seeing the borough president and his staff dunk on some other electeds in basketball, while also gaining resources for mental health, and please come out and attend. That's all I have. Oh, also, there is a surge in COVID-19 cases going on right now. So at the beginning, I passed out COVID tests, which are on some of the tables. And if you or any organizations need COVID tests, please reach out to our office. We have a lot to distribute to the borough. That's all I have tonight.
President be notifying members that they have to renew their
All the members that are up for re-application, they got an email about it, and we also sent it out to the district managers. But if you're not sure, you can ask me or your district manager, and we can double check that for you. Let's get her a mic.
You so much. I know this isn't even a question. I just wanted to point out that the 2025 budget process, fiscal year 2025, is open, and people can request discretionary funding from the Queensborough President's Office for not-for-profits. Just want to point that out, you know, as treasurer.
That's true. Thank you.
Oh, actually, and I just wanted to point out that the deadline to apply for discretionary expense funding will be Friday, May 31st, 2024 at 5 p.m. And then the capital application deadline will be February 22 at 5 p.m.
Facts. Anything else? No? Okay, I'm gonna sit down. No? Oh, hello. Oh, for Sunnyside Community Services?
We would love to be able to get COVID test for Sunnyside Community Services.
I can email Judy about it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing health stuff too, so that's why. Yeah. That's it?
Okay, Javier.
Hello, everyone. I'll make it really quick because I think I'm the last one. I know we want to get started with the meeting. Happy New Year. My name is Javier from the District Attorney's Office. In terms of events that we recently hosted, our office recently hosted a toy drive where we were able to give back 2 separate occasions to families and children in need. So that was awesome. And something I just want to touch upon is the DA has recently joined individuals who are working on innovative alternatives to incarceration. So that serious offenders have adequate treatment and equitable rehabilitation for substance and mental issues rather than being incarcerated. So when they return to their communities, rather than just putting these people in jail and being done with it, they have adequate rehabilitation and services for their mental and substance abuses. So when they return back, they're functioning and happier members of society. With that, I left our newsletter over there of what we've been up to. I'm going to keep it really, really short. If anyone has any questions, feel free. If not, I'll join the rest. Thank you so much.
Andrew Thomas from Sunnyside Community Service.
Hi, good evening. So first, want to thank everyone who has donated towards the fire relief. And I just want to continue to share that we are still collecting through the GoFundMe, and behind on the back table, there's information for those who want to continue to donate to the GoFundMe in relates to the fire relief. So far, we're excited to announce that we have raised over $120,000 under the relief. And by the ending of this month, we are planning on starting a process to allocate dollars to those who are impacted. So we're really asking everyone who wants to donate to please do so. In addition, there's a group of volunteers that is hosting an event on the 19th, and I just want to get the information correct. And there will be more to come. The event will be happening here at Sunnyside, and it will be on January 19th. And it's a benefit to raise additional dollars to support the fire relief. So there'll be more information to be shared regarding this benefit as well. Is there any questions? Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering if you have reached out to any of the local large companies and businesses to see if they will match the donations that the community has made. I know that I'm pretty sure JetBlue is in this district. And so I'm just curious.
So our director of development has been working aggressively around corporate sponsors. So I'm sure that we have definitely locally also have connected to some of these organizations. I know recently we also connected with New York Presbyterian around donations. So I will definitely make a note and check in, but I'm sure we may have already connected with JetBlue.
That would be great, because these companies can't just be here and like not.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you.
Great. Mahfouz Islam from the Assembly Member Jessica Gonzalez Ramos's office has patiently agreed to wait until after the captain goes, please. So come on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Captain Tony Wong. I'm the commander for the 108 precinct here in Sunnyside, Long Island City, and Woodside. I just want to give you a quick briefing of what the year 2023 looked like as far as a crime perspective. There has been no doubt many challenges that we had to undergo in the last year. A lot of things that I feel like could have been in our control and other things were not in our control. I've been in the precinct for about 6 months, but in the time I've been here, there's a lot of procedures and a lot of things that we've already implemented. But before I get into that, just a quick overview of the crimes that we took for 2023. The number one thing I want to point out is that there was no murders that happened in the 108 precinct. That's down from 2022 when we took 1 murder. So I'm really proud of that aspect. With the other crimes that we take, for you guys don't know what we do when we measure crimes is we take pretty much the worst of the worst crimes. We call them index crimes. Those are the crimes that we categorize that we send to the FBI for statistical purposes. It includes things like rape, robbery, felonious assaults, burglaries, grand larcenies, and car thefts. In the 108 precinct, all these categories that I just mentioned virtually has an increase of either something small or something a little bit more significant. The top 3 crimes that are going to be a challenge right off the bat for 2024 are robberies, where last year we took an increase of 37.5% in robberies. Now that's a mix of everything. Things with gun violence, things with kids, assaulting and stealing things from other kids. There's also domestic components as well, where we have victims and we have offenders that are in a domestic relationship. Those all account for the increase in the robberies. In burglaries, we have an increase of almost 31%, and in car thefts, we have an increase of 31.5%. However, with those crimes that I just mentioned, we do have an increase in arrests as well. In robberies, we took 61% more robbery arrests than we did the year prior, 32% more burglary arrests than we did the year prior, and 172% more car thefts arrests that we've taken the year prior. So in other words, we noticed increase in crime throughout the year, and we do address it by doing thorough investigations. We make the arrests, and then even after the arrest, we work really well hand in hand with the DA's office to make sure that a case is prosecutable, and what happens after the person gets his day in court, if he's going to be a recidivist and does it again, or is he going to be a good citizen. We do keep tabs and make sure that they don't commit the same crimes again. In addition to crimes, just to put things into a little bit more perspective, in the year 2023, just the 108 precinct alone, we've taken about almost 75,000 911 calls. The number I have is 74,460. Those are the people who call 911 for various reasons, but most notably it's because there's some sort of emergency one way or another. Those 75,000 calls, in addition to that, we have about 28,000 311 requests. And for you guys who don't know what 311s are, it's non-crime related complaints, mostly quality of life, that gets directed to the police department for one, condition or another that we cannot address. So the 75,000 911 calls that I just mentioned, if you want to do a quick math, that averages almost, unless I'm doing the math wrong, about a little over 200 911 calls a day. Each officer, on average, works 8 hours. And each 8-hour shift, we average about 68 911 calls. So that just kind of put it in perspective of how much the volume is that we get calls, and every single call that we go to, we do respond one way or another. We don't ignore anybody who call 911. So that's the volume of the 911 calls we got for the year 2023. In addition to the arrests, the 911 calls, we do a lot of things as well as far as issuing summonses. Summonses for quality of life offenses, for our moving violations for criminal court summonses. Things that we think warrants a summons, and not everything is always about monetary penalties. Criminal court summonses, we send people to court to have them answer in front of a judge for any crimes that we consider a violation. Oath summonses are the civil penalty ones. We issued about 619 oath summonses. Those are non-criminal or used to be criminal that's been decriminalized violations, and 8,102 moving violations. And those are the ones where it's like if you get pulled over for committing a traffic infraction, you'll more likely than not receive a summons for that infraction. And due to the massive 311 and quality of life complaints that we do take involving moped and scooter violations or just them being reckless, we've taken 263 two-wheel devices off the streets within the confines of the 108 precinct. That includes 17 that we took in the last month. We also issued 3,002 summonses to two-wheel devices. And when I say two-wheel devices, I mean things like mopeds, scooters, things that's pretty much on the road that has two wheels. We do enforcement on those just to make sure that the people who are operating them are doing it legally and safely. We've also conducted many operations. Some operations that we conducted throughout the year was things involving smoke shops. I don't know about you, but I've been noticing them popping up in many blocks, which is not a big deal in the sense of we want businesses to grow. We want a community to have a good business district and a safe community where businesses can do work. But what we do is we do a lot of partnerships with the sheriff's office. We do our own, I guess you could call it a little investigations to make sure that the smoke shops that we are that is in our community is operating it legally, operating safely, and there's nothing that they're doing as far as selling illegal things to minors, things like that. We take those very seriously. Although things when it comes to marijuana, it's not under the jurisdiction of the police department. It's usually the sheriff's office who does enforcement, but we do work with them to make sure that everything's done properly. There's a lot of crimes that we've been taking, I would say in the last month and a half, that we virtually have not taken throughout the whole year. And this isn't just a 108 precinct issue. It's slowly gathering to become a citywide issue from what I'm noticing. And what I'm talking about is, since I want to say the beginning of more like the middle of November, we've been taking crimes when it comes to criminals on mopeds. Not just the reckless ones that you see driving, I guess, all the time throughout the city. It's more like they're snatching things off of unsuspecting people. We had a huge increase in the last month and a half. The four major categories that we've been noticing are people wearing, the first is Apple headphones. And for whatever reason, it's only Apple headphones. Other brands, they're not targeted. Anybody who's walking around with them, I want to always encourage them to be careful of their surroundings because they're being targeted in one way or another. And it's not a secret. The most prevalent areas are places along the high-rise buildings on Jackson Avenue. We took some along Borden Avenue, along Center Boulevard. We've taken a few in Queens Boulevard as well, in like the 30s and 40s streets of Queens Boulevard. In addition to headphone snatches, there's been an increase in chain snatches, purse snatches, and cell phone snatches. It's usually two people on a moped, two people on a city bike. If you see two people on a city bike, that should just, something's up. Your senses should be heightened already, because two people are not supposed to be on a city bike, especially when one of them is riding on the front basket. Because that's what's happening. The one who's riding on the basket is riding up to someone, just snatching it and just running away. We made some progress in trying to identify who these individuals are. It's probably not the same people. It's probably more than just two people doing it. But I always want to come to these meetings to let you guys know what we're dealing with. Because I want you guys to be aware, and I want you guys to take the information back to your friends and families, and just be very, very mindful on when you're walking down the street, because they're targeting people from behind, and they'll ride on the sidewalk, they'll snatch, and then they'll run, and nobody will know what just happened. And it's harder for an investigative purpose in that more likely than not, this victim never saw the face of the person who just snatched their belongings. And that's when we use other means to identify who did it and to make arrests. But if anybody is walking around with these headphones, I highly encourage you to make sure that you have enabled your tracking options. Because the first thing an officer is going to ask is, can we track it right now? Because that's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to try to track it and find who took it and then make the arrests, right? If we lock 1 or 2 people up for this, we're most likely going to stop a lot more thefts, maybe citywide. And if you're on the phone talking, just please be very, very mindful about anybody in your general vicinity, because they're looking for people who's distracted. And if you wear a purse, just be careful. Be careful with how you wear a purse. And we're not just talking about like just pickpockets. We're talking about people who are just driving up, just taking the handbags and forcefully offer you and just driving away. I don't want to say this to scare you guys, because in reality, the crime, we're just talking not many as far as compared to other crimes. It's just on the rise. And I want to make sure we could just stop it before it gets to the point where it's going to be a lot more harder to handle. Other than that, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know this is going to be a busy night. I'm more than willing to answer any questions anyone has. Who should I guess just to be fair, I'll just.
Captain, I'd like to thank you and your precinct for the work you do. I know it's not an easy job. I am head of the City Services Committee, and I have 2 questions to ask you. One has to do with the pot shops. We have so far approved 2 legalized pot shops. There are quite a few more than 2 that exist. At least the truck that used to be parked around the block to be a precinct, I haven't seen that lately. But there are pot shops. An example, we have one on Skillman Avenue between 48th and 49th Street. We also had 2 armed robberies on Skillman Avenue between 48th and 49th Street in the last 6 months. I don't think it's a coincidence. The fact is that not only are these shops operating openly, but they are causing additional crime, I believe, plus whatever they might put into the substances they are selling can cause serious damage to people. What can we do about it? I heard you say something about the sheriff's office before. The sheriff's office is a great thing to come in afterwards, but first instance has to be addressed by the police. Why are these shops being able to operate openly? Why aren't the police going in there every day and seizing the contraband that is there?
Okay, that's actually a great question. What you mentioned before, 2 robberies at gunpoint on Skillman, that I believe what you're talking about is the first one happening on September. And if I'm not mistaken, it was September 15th.
I'm sorry?
If I'm not mistaken, it might have been September 15th was the first
I
incident.
believe the last one was, yes.
Yes, so we're definitely aware of that. Both these cases are under investigation, current active investigation. The one thing that I can't say, because since it's still active, there's not much I could talk about with these cases. But as far as a correlation between what you mentioned, those robberies and anything to do with any pot shops, it's not. There may not be a big correlation just with those robberies that we mentioned. And I understand that Skillman Ave is like when it comes to a gunpoint robbery, that's not something that happens too commonly over there. We are looking at a lot of angles. There's a lot of things we're going through, but even though the first incident of the 2 robberies you mentioned happened in September, it's still an active investigation. As far as the increases in these shops, it's happening a lot. We are keeping tabs as much as we can, because not for 2 reasons. The first is we want to make sure that you're operating legally, but the second is there was a wave of robberies that happen where these shops become victims themselves. So we always have to make sure everyone is safe. The one thing that I always ask anybody who has any information about these places opening up, especially if they see or is aware that they're doing something illegal, is the first thing is to let us know. I have a special operations team that we do operations. We do have things like where we would see if they would, you know, sell anything to minors. Or like if you know for sure that they're selling illegal substances, that we'll go and we'll check them out. A lot of times when we look into these things, you're not going to know that we're there, because that's the point. We want to make sure we see what they're doing without them knowing that the police is there. All that information is being relayed to the sheriff's office. Like I mentioned before, we do work hand in hand. There's things we can and can't do as far as what the jurisdiction is, but there's nothing that prohibits us from getting the information and sending it to the right people. So the only thing I ask is usually just let us know what's going on, especially if you have real like good reasons to believe that some business is doing something illegal.
Well, they're selling pot, that is illegal. And secondly, they have possession of far more than the legal amount of pot on premises every single day. And they advertise it, so I don't know that you need us to explain it to you or to tell you about it. Okay, the second question I have to ask you has to do with response time. I have noticed, and I don't know if it's true or not, that response time on an example, house burglaries, the alarm goes off, the companies call the police department, the time that it takes to respond to a house burglary seems to have increased dramatically. Do you have any comment on that, or am I mistaken?
Oh, absolutely. So I guess just going specifically with the house alarms. The officers they all know that when a house alarm goes off, we treat it as a potential burglary. The response times to be almost the same as if we get a phone call that's saying, I think someone's house is being burglarized at this moment. It just comes over with different radio codes, with different, you know, circumstances. But we always go, we treat them as burglaries, but sometimes it is difficult in that a house can have an alarm that goes off, not just a house, even a business can go off every night, every hour, I mean, on the same hour every night, to the point where it's going to be difficult for us to respond there, because we know this is happening every night. But we still go. There is nothing that prevents us from going, and everything that we do, we measure, not just for the response times for house alarms, every crime, everything is measurable. I'm not sure if there's like a specific incident that you're referring to, or just in general, like this is the overall census of how. Okay. Okay. Well, the other question I would have is, we want to make sure that the alarm is linked to the way where 911 will get it. And if you like, after the meeting, we could just talk on the side. You give me your address, and I'll tell you everything about that that night and the response and what time we got it and everything. That's not an issue.
I just want to let everyone know I'm trying to keep it to about 10 more minutes of questions, and I'd like to go to people who haven't gone yet. So, Camille.
Thank you. A comment, just want to echo the disappointment in the amount of time it took for a response to a horrible incident that happened in my building over the summer. It was a life and death situation, and it felt like it took forever for the police to arrive. And of course they were, question.
Are you comfortable telling me the location, or something you want to just bring me to the side and talk about?
I don't, it already happened. It wasn't, I was present, but it didn't happen to me. So, but it was on Jackson Avenue, an attempted murder. So the question is, food trucks and like illegal food distribution, is that under your jurisdiction?
Illegal food trucks?
Food trucks and food distribution happening on the sidewalks in front of buildings under construction. Is that something that, you call the police for? Is that a 311 issue?
I guess it would depend on the type of complaint. If they're parked in a way where it's violating any vehicle traffic law, yeah, we would definitely go to check it out. If it's anything to do with the type of way they conduct themselves with serving customers, I would think that would be Department of Health.
Okay. Thank you. And you mentioned that you have ways to identify the people on the mopeds that are doing the robberies. Are using facial recognition?
Facial recognition, here's the problem with that. Facial recognition is a tool that we do have at our disposal. However, it's not a science where like it's that easy like what you see on TV. More likely than not, the people who's doing this, they have masks on them or helmets. So we use other ways to try to identify who they are. Because a lot of times, well, almost all the times, one way or another, they're covering their face.
It's not facial recognition.
It's a tool that can be used, but it's not for the specific crime that you're mentioning. If we can, it would be an option, but we focus more on cameras, security cameras in the residential and commercial buildings that help more.
And the last bit is totally hearsay, but since you're here, I've heard of a criminality taking place in like the different high rises, prostitution, gambling, totally hearsay. Wanted to know your POV, and if you've heard or investigated, what your observation is. Thank you.
Those type of allegations or complaints, throughout the year, we do get them. I'm not sure if the building that you're thinking about is the same building that I'm thinking about. But what we do is, we don't do long-term investigations. I'm just talking about just the precinct level on patrol. We have specialized units that do these investigations. They're the ones we give the information to. The same way that if you call, let's say Crime Stoppers, so you call any hotline to give a tip, it's the same kind of people that we speak to as well, to give the information. Although when it comes from us, it's more like, it's not anonymous. They'll know who it's coming from. But every single information, allegation or complaint gets investigated one way or another. It cannot get closed without any type of investigation. Next thing.
Hello. Thank you, officer, for serving our community and for safety. I'm speaking especially for the safety issue with the Woodside Avenue and near to the PS12 school. There is no safety security camera surrounding area of the school. This is absolutely unbelievable. Every school have the safety, and any incident last couple of years, a lot of incident happened in Woodside Avenue, especially in the morning. And recently, another issue raised up, I speak before that, the prostitution issue. That is totally 41th Avenue from 68 to all the way to 79th Street. And NYPD, after my request last couple of months ago, this set up one camera in 72 that is not usable because there's a lot of private house camera over there. But any side, there's no security camera. And I'm requesting to you to visit any weekend to the Woodside Avenue and 41st Avenue. It's between like 79th Street to 68th Street until any time. Like they started from the evening to until morning. So I'm requesting to the special force in 71st, there is a special blank area. Police officer can easily to stay a long time because there's no parking. It's a dead end. And I saw a lot of ambulance, EMS truck stand there in 72 because we are located end of the precinct 108. So it makes sense. This is the border of 108 and 115. So I'm requesting to you to enforcement, please, if possible, let's send them extra enforcement. I saw some police officers, they're rounding, but they're not staying in this area. Thank you.
Okay, no, let me just start by saying that what your concern is legitimate. I absolutely want to bring that out there. I what I would love is to say you're gonna get more cops. I'm gonna put more cops out there. But the reality is personnel is always an issue. The same cops that go answer your 911 calls, like if you call 911 for emergency, those officers are the same officers that respond to your 311 calls. They're the same ones who respond to school dismissals to make sure kids are exiting the school safely. We're using the same officers with multiple hats. And when that happens, the officer has to use their judgment to prioritize what's a violent act that may happen, because that's what they have to go to first. Like first and foremost, no one wants to get hurt. We don't want anybody to get hurt. If there's a potential that someone is going to get hurt, that takes priority over everything else. With that being said, we try to prioritize as best as we can. For the area that you're concerned with, yeah, it's if you look at the map, where you said and where our precinct is, it's like, one is east and one is west. But we have cars that are supposed to be in specific areas. In other words, if they're not going to emergency jobs, they're not allowed to leave that area. And if they do, we'll find out because we track all our cars in real time. So we know where all our cars are. If you have a specific time, which I think you mentioned, like mostly in the mornings, if there's a specific time or a specific place that you're seeing the most increase in the crime, or the best chance we could either see something or catch somebody, that's something I want to know. Because whatever limited resources that I have, I want to use them as best I can. And the best thing I can ask the community is information. Whatever information you could give, and it could always be anonymous. It could always be, if you're comfortable talking to me, that's fine. The more we get, the more we can figure out where we could put somebody to get the biggest value of my officers. So.
Hi, thanks for coming. So I appreciated the report at the beginning, but you said that there were no murders in CB2 in the last year, but we lost 4 people to traffic violence, 3 pedestrians and 1 motorist. And that's double the number we lost in 2022 when we lost 2.
We actually lost 6.
We actually lost 6. There you go.
Our 6th one, we just found out just a few days ago.
Yeah. And we had a significant increase in crashes. Last I checked, we went from 688 in 2022 to 740 in 2023. And I don't remember the exact number of injuries, but it was a significant increase. And I was wondering if the number of moving violations given increased in that time. You mentioned targeting moped and scooter riders, but the vast majority of these injuries and fatalities are caused by 4-wheel vehicles. So I would hope that that's where you're targeting your efforts. I was also wondering if you have towing numbers, because our sidewalks are constantly blocked, our bike lanes are blocked, and we report things constantly, and we often just see complaints closed and no action taken.
Okay, let me just, I guess, start by saying one of the first things that I stressed out with my officers is we're not crime fighters, and you'll probably hear me say this all the time. We're not here just to fight crime. We're here for public safety. Public safety doesn't just mean a crime's been committed and we're going to catch the bad guys. It means what can we do to keep the community safe? We look at traffic collisions just as serious as other things. That's how I know that we took 6 fatalities. A lot of times summonses help. We do realize that when you hit people in their wallets, we could see a change in behavior, but we don't always go that route. We want to make sure we educate the community as well. We do a lot of checkpoints where we target them with vehicle safety material. We also make sure that we go in the right places. We don't just target areas where a collision's happened. We try to target areas where we see a potential for maybe a collision happening in the future. When it comes to pedestrians getting hit, because that happens a lot, more than 70% of the time, it's at a crosswalk, and it's when a motorist makes a left turn. So we analyze that, and the way we combat that is that when I mentioned earlier, the old summonses, those are the civil penalties that we give. A lot of times we give those to the motorists who somehow, for whatever reason, collide with a pedestrian crossing on the crosswalk. We do a lot of analysis when it comes to traffic safety. But again, summonses is just one part of the tool that we use. I want to say I have my, what I don't have with me, actually, hold on, I might just have it. It's a breakdown of, no, I'm sorry. I thought I had a breakdown of the summonses for the whole year for just straight up like all moving violations. I just have on me is the moped two-wheel devices ones.
Also, yes, so you mentioned that. How are you working with other agencies to go after the point of sale, the businesses that are selling them to people who don't know they're illegal?
I'm assuming you're talking
without
about mopeds, right?
registrations?
Mopeds
Yes.
and e-bikes. So
E-bikes are legal. It's mopeds
yes.
that require licenses and registrations and are often sold to people who don't know that.
So there are locations that do they do sell mopeds. We do know that if a moped wants to be written in the state of New York, it's got to be registered with the DMV. It needs a VIN number. It needs to be registered. It has to have a registration. If we run the plate, it has to come back to this moped. What we do is we do inspections. We don't go to a place and be like, this is illegal, here's the fine, and we're shutting you down. The first thing we do is informing them, and we're documenting that we're informing you. This is what needs to be fixed. Because the next time, it could be PD, it could be another a city agency that's gonna come. But we're documenting that we were here and this is what we saw. If it gets fixed, that's the point. We wanna make sure that we could correct it without, issuing fines, without doing anything first. Once that's come and gone, the second thing that we usually look at is what are our enforcement options. Usually that entails confiscation, entails fines. We work a lot with other city agencies, not just like the sheriff's office, but like we also work with the fire department to make sure that with that, because we know a possibility of fires is the lithium batteries that are in a lot of bikes. This is a possibility. We always want to make sure it's safe, so we get the fire department involved. If there's anybody who thinks that someone is selling something illegal, again, just let us know. But it's not an overnight thing where if we get the information, we're going to go right out there. It takes time because a lot of times if we know something is wrong, we want to start building a case. We want everything to have a paper trail. So in a lot of times the criticism I get is that the police aren't doing anything, which I mean, from my eyes, it's not really true because it takes time to document everything. But yeah, it just starts with just letting us know about that. I don't know if that really answers your question, but we are aware and we do outreach before we do any fines.
That's a fair answer. And as for vehicles with defaced, obscured, or missing license plates, we're seeing that more and more. What are you doing about that?
So are we. We're seeing a lot more of those. Unfortunately, lately, the people who are committing the crimes, they usually either steal a plate first or they steal the car first. So when you go and you get a license plate of somebody who just committed a crime, you find out that the car was reported stolen. We go after them. It's not.
What about just like individuals who like scratch one number to try to avoid speed cameras?
Yeah, no.
tolls?
If officers, we have special ops officers that drive around in unmarked vehicles. The goal is to not let the motorists know that police is next to them or behind them. If they see any type of defaced plate, it's a felony. We make that a forged instrument, and we charge them with possessing a forged instrument.
Okay. Going forward, would it be possible to bring data to the Transportation Committee?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm more than willing to give you the information that as far as because we do collect all the data when it comes to collisions, summonses, pedestrian involvement, cyclists, trucks, anything, not just fatalities, we collect everything. Just reach out to us. If I can't make it, there's always a representative, and I have an executive officer.
It's been a couple of months since we've had somebody at the transportation committee, but going forward, I hope we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last two, Tanya and Button.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to know if you were aware about the incidents that are happening in the Citibank down the street. People are getting robbed when going to the ATM. Apparently, there's people that sit, check on who's coming to the ATM, and when they walk down, they get mugged for any type of quantity.
The last one that comes to mind is just last month, within the last month.
Are you guys on
No,
top of it and
Oh,
helping?
absolutely, because that involves an elderly woman who just came out of an ATM, the Chase Bank on Queens Boulevard on 46th Street. We know all about that, and we are all on top of that. These kind of crimes, especially with the elderly, we're not gonna just immediately go out there and just, just go out there and grab them. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure we ID the person. We want to make sure we have everything for this district attorney, because we want to make sure this guy gets arrested and prosecuted to the best we can. But yeah, that's the incident that comes to mind. A lot of officers are very passionate about that because it happened to an elderly female who's happened to visit New York City.
Yes, so just to inform you, I've been told twice in the past month and a half not to go to the ATM. So it's happening to everyone. Currently, there's a group. One person stays in, sitting like they need services while they check on every transaction that people are doing in the ATM.
Please
But
let
I
us know.
appreciate you're on top of this.
So please let us know. If we get calls all the time, usually by bank security, that there's a suspicious person in the vestibule of an ATM.
Okay.
We always check it out. When that call comes over, it gets categorized as a priority call. So please let us know if you see anybody just suspicious. Let us check them out.
Hi, good evening. I have a question on, if you go to 48th Avenue, 36th Street, 34th Street, 33rd Street, it's pretty dark. And they are cars without license plate. I had one in my block, it took them months to remove. It's very dark in that area, and at night, I would like to see some cars around because
What's the location? I'm sorry.
it's 48th Avenue. If you go to 36, 34, 35th, all of that, it's really hard to walk around that because it's dark. There's a bus station right there on 38th Street that has no lights. And I saw some people with kids standing there at night, but now we got a light in the corner, so it gives us some light. But there are cars there sitting there for months and there's no license plate. So if you guys check, I wish I took pictures, but it was too late at night and I was uncomfortable walking. I was walking
Well, no,
alone.
absolutely. If you ever feel uncomfortable doing anything, I would not recommend it.
Yeah.
We accept photos through 311. You can send it to the precinct directly. There's a lot of ways for that information to be reached to us. I could definitely go send out my officers to that location to check it out. But I think what you're referring to are possibly abandoned vehicles, right? Not just vehicles who just
Just bad. Yeah, I saw one or two
Okay.
because I don't know if there's a vendor company there that I see them putting their cars in. But I had to go and get something and I saw the cars empty.
I don't think there's any mechanic shops over there.
Not
I'm
mechanics,
if I'm
they
not
do
mistaken.
food
Got it.
carts.
Okay.
Food cart, they store their food carts there. That's I think on 36. So I know the area pretty well because I go there. That's one, and I do have a question. I want to piggyback off of the Citibank. If you go there in the daytime, Citibank, McDonald's, it's really hard to walk late at night. Very dangerous. I would not walk even around 4:30, 5 o'clock. When kids get out of school, right after it gets out of school, it's very hard to walk around that neighborhood. So I would really like if someone could pass by. People do come up to you. They just, this is after school and they try talking to you. I don't know if they're the ones who I'm not saying they're asking for money, but it's not very safe to walk around there. And I know people are getting mugged. People are nervous to get into the ATMs on 46th Street, but 38th Street, 39th Street, Queens Boulevard, I would really wish that someone could walk around there because there's also a Capital One bank there.
You're absolutely right. In that area, specifically 38th Street by
Yeah.
the McDonald's, we do usually have officers posted there. A lot of times it's during the school dismissals, because that's the area where a lot of schools converge.
Yeah.
Especially when they're riding the train, they're going to McDonald's, they're just walking around. So we do have some police presence. The goal is to make sure that the kids are safe.
Correct.
At the same time, we also have posts in the stations as well. Maybe not all the time, but they're going, to stations to look to see if everything's okay. I definitely understand where you're coming from. Even if no crime is committed, but the perception is something feels unsafe, that's good enough for me to try to do something about it. A lot of times we will try to add presence. Hopefully that, that kind of deters a lot of the things that's been happening. But I tell everybody all the time, there is no problem if you feel like something may be happening to call 911. A lot of times when something is suspicious, no crime is committed, but something is a little bit suspicious, something is off. A lot of times you're not going to get like a marked police car to stop by. You're going to most likely get an unmarked car that's going to drive around, because we want to catch them. We want to catch them in the act. And a lot of times the way we do that is I send my officers, they're in uniform, but they're in a car that's nondescript to make sure that, what they're seeing is everything is good. But if it gets worse, that's something I definitely want to know about, one way or another in this meeting or in another forum. On the flip side, if anybody notices any type of improvements, that's something that I do, like, I would appreciate that feedback as well, because that's the kind of stuff that I always take back to my officers. When a community member tells me they're noticing an improvement in whatever condition that they were trying to address. So feedback is very important, the good and the bad.
I see kids in the corner too, like little small kids around 11:30. I live in that block. So I see, I don't know.
I do too.
Yeah, it's just at 11:30, when you see a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, you get a little, yeah. I'm like, oh, what is that kid doing out so late? I mean, there are parents with them, but
I was gonna say that, yeah. But
yeah, I see a lot of them on the streets. They're just sitting there. Safety is a big issue. So I know the parents are there, but I would really like if you guys could just see that corner a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please be safe.
Great. Mahfouz Islam, who's been waiting patiently, from Jessica Gonzalez from Rose office.
Hi, I'm Mahfouz Islam, community liaison for Kristen Gonzalez. It's for State Senator Kristen Gonzalez, not Senator Kristen Gillibrand either. That's another confusion that happens. I'll keep it short. Senator Gonzalez had the pleasure of touring the chocolate factory in LIC to hear about the artist residency program that they offer, as well as tour the facilities and hear about improvements and developments they're planning, bringing much needed artists and community space to Queens in a priority for our office. The senator's team toured the Ravenswood generating facility with Team Velasquez and AOC to learn more about the renewable energy projects they're working on, including offshore wind, as well as geothermal tech used to heat and cool buildings. The senator was able to attend the ribbon cutting for the 11th Street bike lane. We're so happy to see DOT expanding bike infrastructure and looking forward to working alongside our Queens electeds to make traveling safe for all bikers, pedestrians, and bikers and drivers. Senator Gonzalez joined Assemblymember Gallagher to call for major investment in our city's sewer infrastructure by restructuring water fees, which would raise revenue for infrastructure upgrades, reduce the burden on average ratepayers, and keep streets from flooding. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, Aiden and Daniel.
So my question is that I did watch the opening day or whatever you call it of the legislative session yesterday. I saw the Majority Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins speak about this year. There's going to be a focus on funding infrastructure. How do you, or how does the senator think that manifests itself in our district that is in desperate need of infrastructure upgrades?
We're already in discussions about discretionary funding, capital funding, and we're going to start reaching out to folks and encourage people to reach out to us in terms of any sort of, whether it be actual infrastructure in their community, or if it is related to infrastructure in terms of buildings or foundational stuff. So encourage people to reach out to us, and we're doing our due diligence as well.
And one more, I know that the governor vetoed the bill about wind power and all sorts of things like that, renewables. I assume the senator is going to push back and push for that to either get overridden or to push a new bill to help that.
For
Yeah.
building. Thank you, guys. Feel free to email me at islam@nysenate.gov with any other questions.
Okay, now we'll move to public comment. We have two folks signed up. First is Corey Hannigan.
Good evening, Happy New Year. My name is Corey Hannigan. I'm a resident of Woodside and the Active Transportation Program Manager at Tri-State Transportation Campaign. First, briefly, I'd like to reiterate my request for the board to pass the resolution in support of intersection daylighting, which would bring New York City in alignment with the safer New York State traffic law and reduce the risk of pedestrian crosswalk collisions mentioned earlier in this meeting. I'd also like to voice my concerns about the mountable curb bike lane proposed for Queens Boulevard. As mentioned in the same conversation earlier in this meeting, we already have an epidemic of sidewalk parking, and other mountable curb lanes in the city are chronically obstructed. This would be a waste of precious infrastructure dollars. Physical barriers like steel or concrete bollards are a much preferable alternative to keep the bike lane safe and usable, and I'd urge the board to say the same. Finally, I'd like to speak in support of bringing dedicated bus lanes to CB2. 3 out of 4 New Yorkers who rely on the bus are low income, and a disproportionate number of bus riders are people of color. But New York City buses are the slowest in the nation. In CB2, the average bus speed is less than 8 miles an hour. We know how to fix this, get the buses out of traffic. Busways and dedicated bus lanes have been shown time and time again to increase bus speeds and ridership and reduce crashes, car use, and travel times, all without impacting traffic volume or speeds. CB2 currently doesn't have any bus lanes, but contains 4 of the top 24 corridors to be studied for bus priority street improvements in the Queens bus network redesign. That includes Northern Boulevard West, Queens Boulevard, 69th Street, and Roosevelt Avenue West. It's worth noting that the New York City Streets Plan 2023 update also highlights Queens Boulevard and Northern Boulevard as priority bus lane corridors. These are welcome improvements which prioritize safer and more sustainable modes of travel at relatively low cost and provide alternatives to driving, which would be essential as congestion pricing is implemented. I strongly urge the board to support more bus lane projects in CB2 to improve mobility for everyone. Thank you.
Next is Lisa Gorin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Gorin from Long Island City Coalition and Hunters Point Community Coalition. We've been advocating for comprehensive resiliency and well-managed growth in Long Island City, and particularly along the Hunters Point floodplain for many, many years. Anyway, we are in the middle of an 8-month project to do comprehensive resiliency planning and come up with a community-based resiliency vision plan for resiliency at Hunters Point North. We had a community site walk about 2 months ago and got a lot of community input there. We're now planning a workshop, a community engagement workshop on Saturday, November 20th. It'll be from 11:30 to 2:30. And there will be a light brunch and hopefully some real engagement and discussion with folks at Culture Lab. We're working, also just one other thing, we're working with a wonderful group of professionals who are expert in mapping floodplains, in understanding resiliency and landscaping along urban waterfronts to manage flooding both from storm surge and sea level rise and all of the inundations that we've seen in the last couple of years. Especially, it's becoming a little crazy how much water we've had to try to absorb in New York City. So we're inviting everyone here. We hope you will all show up or can join us and especially anyone from Long Island City and those from our representatives' offices. We hope you can join us, and we'll be sending out some email announcements very shortly, hopefully in the next few days. So, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. We're in January and it's 2024. Did I really say November? Okay, sorry, oh my goodness. Okay, it's not November, because then it would have already happened. It's happening on January 20th, which is a Saturday, from 11:30 to 2:30 at Culture Lab. Okay, thank you.
Clarified for the room. So is this related to or completely separate from the one LIC rezoning focus meetings?
Yeah, this is not about rezoning. It's really focused on resiliency planning, and we've been in close contact with Julie and her office. They're aware, they've been aware of it for a long time. They're really focused on something a little bit different, or actually very different.
Of course. Thanks for clarifying.
Sure. Yes, Lisa. Sure. I mean, we've been really trying to, I'm pretty short, so I've been on my tiptoes. We've been talking about resiliency and well-managed growth for a long, long time, and have been in conversation with Michael Gianaris and all our other representatives. Senator Gianaris's office gave us a grant a couple years ago. Took a while for the funds to come through, but we finally got them. We were able to hire Nautilus and Bonnie Harkin, who has worked closely with CB2 in the past and wrote or worked on that report that was put out by CB2 in response to the URLIC project. So we're coming to this with a wealth of data, and Nautilus has done, a lot more data collection and looking at the tidal flows in the East River, and the water table at Animal Basin and up all along the coast. They've mapped it. So they really have excellent data, and we're going to share, all of that at the workshop, and try to engage the community in a real conversation about what makes sense in terms of growth and development and open space and all the and resiliency planning. So hope you can come.
Okay.
There was a Kevin Winslow signed up online. Oh, great. So that's it for public comment, and I think we're going to our next agenda item. That is the discussion of the draft hybrid meeting resolution. Maury, you're up.
Good evening. Happy New Year, everyone. So has everybody, I hope everybody's had a chance to read the remote meeting policy. Yeah, a few claps. If you haven't had a chance to read it, basically, we needed to come up with a resolution to address how we are going to deal with remote meetings and how folks can be active and involved, especially if there are people that may be sick, or as we heard earlier in the meeting if they have childcare responsibilities, disabilities, differently abled, for whatever the reason. So this is our first draft that we wanted to present to the board that our committee created. And the point of putting this out there now is then we have a discussion about it, decide, if there's amendments needed, changes needed, what we want to address, what is important to the board. And then ultimately we have to have a public hearing so that the public can weigh in on this. Now, we've heard a lot of stuff, not only about board members, but I've heard from some folks in the community on both sides of the discussion. Some have said, as a community member, I want to come to a meeting. And when I come to the meeting, I want to be able to see the folks that are representing me. I want to be able to see the community board members, and they should be accountable to the community. So, and then others are very concerned about equal access, making the boards throughout the city more accessible and making it more open to folks who might not be able to, because of physical limitations or other reasons, not able to come physically to the meeting. And also, we live in a world that's digitally connected, and there is a possibility that we can remotely participate. But then we have the questions of, as it was alluded to earlier, the open meetings laws. So we have to be in compliance with those laws. So this resolution is kind of overarching, broad. The idea is to address all of these concerns, but also find out what our community board is, what's important to our board, as long as we're complying with open meetings law. So with that, I want to just kind of open up the discussion. I hope you've done your homework and read the resolution, and we can address this. Yeah.
I also want to say Mark over there, who's helping stream this meeting, is around for technical questions because he's quite of an expert.
Lisa.
So I think I have 3 questions. So it sounds like there's no limit to the number of times that you could be a remote participant. Wait, let me say that. So there's no limit. That's 1. Number 2, then you're being counted as present as a remote participant. Please confirm that. And number 3, it says you need to be seen and heard, and we don't currently have the technology for that. So how are you solving for that?
Yep, all really good questions. So if I stumble, remind me what the questions were. But the first question about the number, quantity of meetings you could miss. We talked in committee, in our task force rather, about whether we want to put a limit or not. We looked at other resolutions around the city. We talked to other boards. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Danielle talked to CB6. I talked to CB6. We talked to some others. CB6 in Queens. Yeah, CB6. And they said they did not have a limit, and some other boards said they did not have a limit. They take it as a case-by-case basis. They didn't want to artificially put it on. And then we also considered that, but also thought, if somebody has different abilities or is not able to physically attend a meeting, but because there's technology, would we want to exclude, or do we want to be a board that's inclusive of folks that might not be able to physically attend? So we chose to make the first draft, not putting a limit on the number of times you can do that. But it's up for the board to discuss and make amendments if they see fit, if we see fit. The other question, you are counted as present. Currently, you'd be counted as present, but you're not part of the quorum. You have to still have a quorum present physically in order for if there's not a quorum physically present, we couldn't vote on anything anyway. But if we did have a quorum physically present, then you would be able to vote remotely.
Mark, are you able to answer Lisa's third question of, that was how, we don't have the technology, so how are we gonna do it? Right, and how do some other boards do this?
Right, the technology is here today, well, with one exception, a projector. But the remote participants would be seen on the projector. They'd be heard through a speaker. They would be able to hear and see the room through the cameras we're using currently. Most boards that have, we currently assist 8 boards doing hybrid meetings. They're webinars, not meetings. Board members are panelists. Public are attendees. During a public session, if they're assuming they've registered to speak or recognize, they're promoted so that they can speak. Once they finish speaking, they're sent back to attendees. If you don't know the difference, webinars have 2 groups. The panelists can speak whenever. The attendees can view, but aren't seen or heard. The webinar gives you much more control. The webinar is like tackling the person who comes up and tries to speak when it's not their turn. We typically don't manage that because that would make it our decision as to who can speak. And we don't believe that's our place. There's not a board that's asked us to do that. The chair, usually there's a board member who sits in this case, somewhere up here, who is responsible keeping track of who's got their hand raised, who to promote, who to recognize. Because again, here, whoever's standing at the podium can't see unless they do this constantly. So there's usually somebody sitting here who will say, right. That's our experience. Danielle, Maury or me?
Hey, Maury. So 2 questions. The first one is for those, what protections are in place for those of us who do not pay fully or at all for our devices? So my company that I work for pays for my laptop, one of my laptops. It pays partially for my phone. There's a lot of concern, both from me and from my company, that a FOIL request would then mean that they could access anything. That obviously I work for a corporation that's not public. But also there's concerns about lawsuits and things like that because I'm using a device that I don't entirely pay for. And does that limit me from, if I needed to be remote for some reason, which I think is unlikely in my case, but would it limit me? Because I don't want to take that risk. And I've forgotten my second question, so I'll let you answer that. And when I remember.
All right. So I don't know the answer to that because I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's something we could ask. Who would we ask, Debbie? Okay, so we'd have to go and get advice from counsel, different places on the legality of that. I mean, I think I would imagine it would be similar to how I know in the very beginning when I first got on the board several years ago, Debbie said you might want to consider having a separate email address for board stuff in case you ever got if anything got foiled, then you're not having to turn over all your emails. So maybe it's a similar kind of thing. Obviously, the best case is if you have maybe set up a different user on your computer. I don't know, but we can look into that. Did you think of the other one?
I didn't, but I'll ask you.
Okay.
I can message you.
All right. Oh, Tanya? Okay.
Hey, Murray.
Hi.
So it says that you have to give a minimum of 4 hours. And I feel like that should be, please reconsider, because there are different types of emergency to let the office know that we are going to be attending virtually. And One could be that you got sick or someone got sick and you do have that enough time, but it could be something instant. Then if it's 1 hour, half an hour, you're not gonna be thinking on calling the office or letting someone know, but if you can do it after, you can join the meeting late. So I feel like that minimum time to give notice maybe should be reconsidered.
Well, that's definitely something that could be discussed when it's voted on.
Thank you.
And I should mention that the task force did consider that, and we know that some other resolutions that we looked at were several days in advance. And we actually erred on the short amount of time. We were actually, some were saying 6 hours or 8 hours, but 4 hours we thought was fair to request a virtual setup, because there's also some preparations that have to be made. Obviously, if there's an emergency, this is not necessarily intended for emergencies. This is intended for, you want to participate remotely. Right now, as it stands, if you have an emergency, people contact the office or email them and let them know they're not going to be at the office. So I would imagine that in a lot of cases, if there's an emergency, you might not even be coming to the meeting. So in that case, it would be a moot point. But I think 4 hours, and we asked for them. And I think I'm looking for the exact one. What number was it? I forgot. Trying to look at the exact wording. 3? Yeah. And it says with as much notice as possible at a minimum of 4 hours. Obviously extraordinary circumstances, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, if it's something that the board wants to shorten or change the clause to say, except in emergency situations or on a case-by-case basis or something that could. Right, yeah. So there needed to be some time for the board to get to here. Yeah. Yeah.
I was next.
Oh, sorry.
So I guess I have a question, or to follow up on Danielle's question. Usually when you have work devices that are 100% like paid for by work, like a work computer, it usually is like you're not allowed to use it outside of work reasons. And so that kind of is a moot point. And then also if the work like phone is being reimbursed, it doesn't mean that work phone is, or doesn't mean that phone is not still yours, in terms of ownership. And as far as I understand, those FOIA requests are not just, they're about the ownership of the thing. So in my mind, it's that wouldn't be an issue.
And it might also not be an issue because it's a streaming thing, whereas the meeting's being recorded and everything's gonna be public anyway. So I don't know. That'll be good to look into. Thanks, Kat.
Hi, so I had a kind of, I think it's a procedural question.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at 8 and 9. And 8 says we'll amend the bylaws to make this all happen, which seems reasonable, but then the policy duration is only to July. So do we have to vote on this every year because of the policy duration for the borough?
Maybe or maybe not. So if it gets extended, as they were talking about earlier, it might get redone or whatever. Then we vote on this till 24, and then perhaps it gets extended, and then we just say, okay, we'll extend it to the whatever. So it'll be a case.
But if it doesn't get extended, do we have to
Then it becomes
redo the
moot.
bylaw? Oh,
No. No, because I think we would vote on it before, we wouldn't make the bylaw change. We would probably find out before the bylaws would have to, before we could even get to changing the bylaws. How long did it take to change the last bylaws?
that's the question.
2 years, maybe?
So I don't think that you really need, this can be a policy, but I don't think you need. Anyway.
That's a good point. We might not have to.
I had a similar thought on point 9. I was just going to suggest that maybe we frame it such that if authorization is extended, the policy remains in place until superseded by a new policy, just so we don't have to keep passing a new one if it's
Okay,
Is there any standard bylaws from provided by the Borough President Office?
no, each board is up, it's up to them to create their own bylaws.
Different, okay, got you.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, of course, everything has to be in accordance with in compliance with the charter. I just want to make, oh, go ahead, Ben, I'm sorry.
Just quickly, I'm sorry, it's a technical question. I should have asked it when you were on the stage. Like, there's a couple of times where because work, I had to not be present physically and therefore not really officially through Zoom. There were moments where there was a presentation you can't really see from the camera, and sometime where you couldn't hear very well from the sound system that's in the room. It was early on in September, and I think the October or the November meeting, I forgot which one, I missed two of them like this. Has there been any change in the actual hardware, which would make it so that this is not a technical issue for people who assist remotely, and you really want to see what's on the screen, for example, when there's a projection? Screen share.
What do we start October? Remember, the October, right? Yeah, September, we weren't here, so I can't answer that, but the biggest issue with audio is what you just did, sorry, and spoke from here instead of from here. And this is a big difference in terms of how it sounds as compared to this. And people need to just, and there's nothing we can do about that other than getting up every.
YouTube.
Right.
On chat and think that their questions and things are getting answered. They're not. So let me be clear, and they are not present. They did email the office and said they are out sick, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, they're just auditing and monitoring to hear and be a participant, but they cannot vote and they cannot communicate.
Thank you. Maureen, I believe I heard that there's several boards who are doing what is being proposed already. Could you share what those boards are? Could it would be helpful to me to look at the boards or either online or maybe even attend one so I could experience what you're proposing?
I can't tell you what they all are. We run hybrid meetings for, give me a second. In Queens, none. Brooklyn 4, Brooklyn 18, Staten Island 2, Bronx 11, Manhattan 4, 7, and 11.
Thank you.
And CB6 Queens?
Yeah, but they do it on their own.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, CB6 Queens does it on their own. Yeah, they do it from the Borough President's office and they have Laura.
Maury.
I think it's just the full board. Yeah, because the committees are already meeting remote and they're small enough that you can just do it in the office with the setup. Although it'd be great if we could get one of those owls. Yeah. No, I don't think, no, yeah, no. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Maury, as I recall, we're just discussing it anyway. We can change it if people want it to be for committees too. My question has to do with the technical aspect again. I ran a city services committee meeting last month. We had several visitors, a terrorist organization from the Middle East and a man with a very large member who was demonstrating how to stretch spaghetti. Neither of those would I want to see out in public. Neither of those would I want to see at this meeting, especially on a large screen. How do we avoid that?
Well, we've used a couple different platforms, as we all probably remember, or those of you who are on the board for a while. And one of the ways to do it is whether we do password protection or invitations, but then that can discourage access. Also, if we were to switch to kind of the webinar system, it prevents access from people coming in. We had, when I was chair, there was an issue with people using the whiteboard. They started, when Zoom started adding a whiteboard option, and they started taking over control. But we were able to shut down the whiteboard really quickly, thanks to Anatole and Debbie, and it didn't get out of hand. But I think, do you want to answer some of that with the bombing?
The way a webinar works is everybody on the board would get an email invitation specific to them. They have a link, they click on the link, they become panelists. The public link is to become an attendee. And so you're not able to speak or be seen as an attendee unless promoted during the meeting. So when they're elevated to speak, correct?
Yeah.
Right, the webinar has a lot more control.
So you can need to be controlled. That's the webinar is best. But in general session, I am almost every week I do attend 10 meetings that all are hybrid system. The people like to do that. Like I'm in traveling Germany, but I don't want to miss my meeting. You know, that is the benefit of the hybrid.
I wanted to address something that Lisa had said earlier, and she, like talking about some of the, you know, access and technical aspects. And I want to mention that Debbie and I were looking at with Marianne, we actually came here when I was still chair, and we met with the team to go over the space because we were working on creating a hybrid and doing a resolution back then. But then, you know, then everything changed with the pandemic, emergency orders were changing all the time. But we were actually working with the council person and getting funding, because that's something we haven't talked about yet. It does cost money to have a team come here and do this, and the community board doesn't have much money and can't really afford to do all of this. So the council person, we were working with the council person because it costs even more to do a hybrid meeting. And so that is a consideration, and that's something we hope. In the past, years ago, Channel 13 came and did recordings for us. They weren't hybrid, they were just recordings, and they were broadcast television quality. So it was extremely expensive, but it was all paid for by the council person, right? Yeah. And that was a bunch of years ago. Well, the technology is leapfrogged in the past couple of years, and it's come down in price like 60 times less. So if we can secure funding from someone in the community or one of our elected representatives, that will help tremendously to make this a reality.
What about supplementing? I guess another technical question is, are we talking about like having Mark's team handle it all, and, you know, letting them run the whole show? But I guess you wouldn't, because it's still a webinar, and, you know, we're or, you know, we would be the hosts or whatever. But what if we were to independently supplement what Mark is doing right now? Like, you know, we just got to figure out how to get that laptop and then see folks presenting there and there. And, you know, if we have a presentation, we just throw it up on the screen. And I have a couple of really good amplifiers and mics, so you just, you know, strategically place, and, you know, yeah, it's really just plugging the gaps. And I feel like if we identify what the gaps are, to see Nelly Afshar on the TV and, you know, see the chat and include them, I guess that could be cheaper also.
Well, I feel like this is kind of funny because I have to yield to you, Chair, because first of all, it's the chair's decision, a lot of this. But that's first. But second, we are one of the few boards, I think, in the entire city that has a committee dedicated to engagement and technology, of which our chair was the founding chair of that committee, thanks to Lisa, our former chair.
I think because we have access to folks that understand technology and we have the committee that's focused on engagement and technology, we could get participation of volunteers from that committee to help with this. And I think there are plenty of folks on the board that, not to volunteer them for this activity, but I think if working in tandem with Mark's team,
Maureen,
really good for the board and the community.
Maureen, I just want to comment on that. My concern about that would be that it's kind of ad hoc, like what if you left and moved, to Phoenix? And then we didn't have that capacity to do it anymore. It's like for the board, we need consistency and structure. And if we're going to adopt a hybrid model, I'd like it to be count onable, right? And that's number one. And the second thing is, like, we need to be clear to the public that this doesn't apply to public participation, right? This is exclusively, you're saying it does? I'm sorry.
can,
You're
it can.
no, Mark is shaking his head.
Yeah, it's technically speaking, it's up to the board to decide if we want the public to be able to participate in that manner. Technically speaking, it's possible, and Mark can speak to that.
I'm not a lawyer, so I preface it by saying that, and I'll say it at the end as well. But my understanding of the law, and maybe somebody from representing electeds might be better knowledgeable, maybe not. My understanding of the law is if you make the meeting hybrid for the board members, it must be for the public as well.
Okay, so
You
then,
cannot distinguish.
then to clarify, then we would post this on our website as a webinar, and you just click on X if you want to be an attendee. And whoever shows up, shows up. It's not exclusive invitation, like
But
you get an
attendees
email.
aren't seen and heard unless you elevate them individually at the moment.
Right.
You have to pull them from an attendee to a panelist, then put them back again.
Mark, just for a moment, so we have these attendees and someone clicks saying, I want to, and is there a way that we can preview that person before we elevate them? Because again, the same person who took over my meeting could take over this meeting by simply getting called on if we don't see them ahead of time. How do we pre-screen them? Or can we?
Yeah.
You could also turn off their cameras and not show that.
That's after you see me.
That's
Not at all.
You-
technologically, there's no way to know what they're gonna say or do in advance. Right, I mean, but in a webinar, you also have the ability to demote them immediately. Not even turn off that camera, just put them back as an attendee and then deal with them by booting them. If you want, that's a whole public access.
I'm just gonna add to that, in a full board meeting, the only time the public can speak is during public comment. So they would be required to sign up ahead of time on the Google form, so their name would be verified. A Zoom bomber is not signing up on a Google form. They're just like logging into random Zooms and showing their screen. So that's like an extra layer of protection.
I haven't experienced any Zoom bombing issues from the webinar model.
You have not.
No, doesn't mean it doesn't
Been
exist.
doing it for a couple of years.
But I haven't, on the meeting model, yes, and even that ended years ago, but on the webinar model, no, it's too different. They don't want to do that much work.
Okay, I'm gonna stop because I know we still haven't gotten to the business portion of the meeting. This is a good introductory discussion. I'm gonna take all your comments. I'll work with Patrick and whoever else from the task force is here. We'll incorporate these into a revised resolution. Maybe next month we'll come back and maybe have a public hearing and a vote on it. If anybody's interested in communicating with us, let Debbie or Marianne know, let the office know, send us your comments so that we can incorporate those comments. We don't need to because there's no motion. Yeah, we're not in the
All right, thank you.
All right, lots more to discuss, but yeah, sorry, let's keep it moving. And now it's attendance.
All right, so for my first time through doing the attendance, please feel free to correct me, interrupt me if I mispronounce your name, or you want me to call it on you by some other name. We'll take it from there. Amparo Abelbay. Nelly Afshar. Excused. Anatol Ashraf. Present. John Bahia. Anne-Marie Baranowski. Carisha Batan. Excused, right? Or absent? Absent, okay. Nicholas Berkowitz. Excused. Kat Bloomfield. Danielle Brucker. Carlos Castel Croak. Tanya Chavez. Chavez, okay, perfect, thank you. Osman Chowdhury. Stephen Cooper. Kelly Craig. Absent. Warren Davis. Lisa Deller. Lori Gallinoy. Samnath Gimir. How do you pronounce it? Gimir? Perfect, thank you. Dr. Raz Tanutzos. Camille Gray. Kenny Greenberg. Mohammed Hassan. Christine Hunter, excuse, right? Okay. Leland Kendall. Badrun Khan. Diana Kitcher. Harmeet Kumar, excused, right? Yeah. Chimang Lama. Sheila Lewandowski, excused, right? Okay. Benjamin Lucas. Patrick Martinez. Thomas Machoutsis. Eric Narberg. Dishan Ott. Riley Owens, excused. Correct. Yep. Amaya Saab. Norberto Saldana, excused. Yes. Laura Shepard. Ryan Smith, I'm here. Caroline Spitzer. Lauren Springer. Kunsak Sashi. Absent. Michaela Thomas. Mary Torres. Absent. Letitia Vasquez, excused. And Cal Singh Genso, absent. Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. And now the approval of the minutes. That's just a show of hands, if I remember correctly. Sorry, that needs to be a motion. Motion to approve the minutes. Okay, Dr. Roz made the motion and Tom Matus has seconded it. Show of hands, right? Okay, all in favor? Any abstentions? Awesome. And now my report. Thanks everybody for coming out today, and I think we have quorum, right? So great to have quorum on the first meeting of January. I'm gonna keep it relatively short. Yeah, so first I'd like to, again, thank you all. First of all, Happy New Year. May this be a year where we enjoyed the little things and as well as the big. Yeah, so first I'd like to, and thank you for the vote and the privilege of doing this. And first off, I'd like to thank our previous chair, Danielle Brecker, for stepping up to do this job. It's not easy, so round of applause. There have been a couple of questions about like the priorities, my priorities for 2024, and it's really the principles that I've talked about in the past. Inclusivity, engagement, transparency, visibility, accountability. Again, it's my priority is the board, and it's to empower the rest of you to tackle the big issues. So, you know, you come to me, of course, CC the board and CC the office, and you know, we'll tackle it. We'll figure out how to address it and advise and do all the cool things we do. Couple of specific initiatives that I have, you know, tech modernization, when, you know, we'll be talking about that definitely, you know, in little bits, you know, in ways big and small as we go. Hybrid meetings, of course, you know, we'll hopefully get that sorted by next month. And then I have a passion project that I would love to involve the small business committee in, and also live in Kendall. I'm gonna come to you for this. The concept of a small business survival kit of, you know, being a resource for small businesses, and, you know, having them have a cheat sheet and things like that. So more to come on that. Yeah, you can always reach me on social, and of course, you know, if it's official business, do CC the board. There is one thing that I've already made some you know, moves on. The committee chairs, you've seen my email. I've reached out to some of you about leadership and your and committee structure and things like that. So more conversations to come, but really it's two principles for me. One is to pair up the chairs with vice chairs. I'd like to flip that. I'd like to flip the co-chair setup into a vice chair. I feel like it's cleaner. It helps, you know, give more structure and separate roles of responsibility. So so that's what I like to do. And the other is to there's the concept in the bylaws of everybody on the executive board not being in one position for more than 4 years. I'd like to extend that to committee chairs as well. I would like to revisit anybody who's had it for 4 years or longer, and you know, pass it on. And, you know, those conversations will be had. And I'd like to start with at least make one announcement. And of course, I've had a few conversations offline already. So I will let the other committee chairs make their announcements when it's time. As for me, I'm going to skip ahead to tech chair and announce that Patrick Martinez has graciously accepted to take it over from me. So it's very excited to work with you about that. And yeah, we're going to get it done. And that is really it. And hopefully, you know, we get all the other committee decisions sorted by February. One reminder, please send your agendas to the committee chairs. Please send your agendas to the office 7 to 10 days in advance. It really, you know, helps move things along. Otherwise, you know, we can't really have a meeting if it's less than 7 days out. And of course, the board application. So anybody who's still left on Zoom, I still see a few of you. Please do consider applying. And that's it for me.
Thank you. I want to congratulate Anatole for getting it out of the gate pretty quickly and setting everything up for tonight. So I look forward to the good partnership that we've already started. Just want to remind you of a couple things, wishing everybody happy, healthy new year. The board office is closed on the 15th. Due to the fact that we have Martin Luther King Day, so I'm just letting you know. We had a tree planted at Saba Park that died. It was the former owner of Daisy's, Lily Gavin. The community had come together to have a tree there, and unfortunately it didn't live. So Parks replanted a tree this week. We worked hard on that for a while. Don't forget, I will send a reminder to all of you who are up for renewal.
we have the list. So if you don't know if you're up or not, we'll make sure that you are aware. Get your applications in quickly. We had from about November 15th to, because we didn't report last month, to today, we had about 28 complaints. Department of Sanitation, Department of Transportation, signage, signals, potholes, PD. And you heard about a lot of that tonight. And DOB and open construction site. Department of Sanitation will be collecting Christmas trees and wreaths from Friday, January 5th through Saturday, January 13th. So that is my report. We post to Facebook. We make sure that all of our information gets up there. And anything you'd like to see, let us know. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you. Yes, Kat.
Hi, I'm sure the answer is no, because we know these agencies be doing what they be doing. But like
Did they ever answer any?
Do they
of
ever
our-
respond to our
No.
letters?
No, they do respond sometimes with things that are getting done. And
That's
that's
good.
That's a good thing. So rather than responding to the letter, they do give us an update here and there of what's in the hopper, whether it's a speed bump, a street light, the tree that we're working towards. And then I meet with the agencies once a month. And we try to get as much answers that are the hot issues. Well, we keep pushing, we're tenacious and we're relentless and we're a good group here. So as a lot of us know and have done this for a long time, that we just keep moving forward. Sure. Okay.
I know you've said in the past that as we send requests to agencies or maybe even issues to council members or whoever, we should make sure you're made aware. Should we be copying the email or be sending them to you? What's the best
That
way?
would be terrific.
Okay.
I would, and glad you kind of brought that up. It's been a while that board members, and there's only a handful of you, and you know who you are, that do call us and let us know about the tree that's down or the pothole that's not fixed or the street light that's out. Or double park car or issues or filming issues, which are coming back. Kenny, we're keeping an eye on them, but they are filming periodically. Now, I don't think as much as they did before, but they are. But you need to let us know. If you get a 311 complaint number, make sure we have the complaint number. The location is very important and where the issue is, and we will follow it up the best way we can. A lot of times we get a lot from Blissville and Tom, and he has had contact, but we make sure that we send it and we double up so that they do come from the community board.
Thank you.
It gives your issue teeth. Yes, Kenny. Sorry, I mentioned our
No, that's
subject.
okay. No, I just wanted to say that, after the strike, I'm happy to see that, the film crews are working and so, and my gripe has always been about the level
parking.
of it, the abuses and so on, but I'm actually happy to see that they're working again.
They haven't come back with as much, thank God, and we do have that moratorium letter that we do send once a year when we get new captains. So being that we do have a new captain, we probably should send one now that it's a new year. Thanks.
City plan, right?
Good evening. My name is Bree Mahia. I'm from City Planning. Happy New Year. Congratulations to everyone in their new roles. Starting off the new year, you also see that you don't see a familiar face here today. Teal's out sick, so you have me to yourself. I just want to start off with an update on ULURP. So the most recent application that I brought to you all was the application from the Department of Transportation that was certified last year. And so we recently did get confirmation that they will be presenting at the Land Use Committee meeting on January 17th. And for more general updates, I want to highlight that the next round of our focused area meetings for the One LIC study will take place in the next few weeks, starting off on January 22nd. This will cover public realm, transportation, climate adaptation, resiliency, and open space. All the meetings will be from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. The second meeting will be on January 29th, and the third meeting will be on February 8th. The second meeting will cover housing, and the third meeting will cover economic development, arts and culture, and community resources. These will all take place at the Jacob Reese Settlement Center. And I just want to highlight that this space was selected in collaboration with Councilmember Juan. We want to definitely make sure we invite residents from Queensbridge to participate in shaping the future of LIC. And this facility can hold over 200 participants. Now, we still have another round, I think it's in March and April. So we are open to other suggestions for other locations. You are able right now to go ahead and RSVP to these FAM meetings on our website at licplan.nyc. And lastly, I want to just highlight an email that was sent out on Wednesday. This is regarding an online forum to help answer some questions regarding the City of Yes economic zoning for economic opportunity. This will take place over Zoom on January 9th at 11 a.m. And so I invite you to attend the session, use it as a resource to gain some clarity in real time. If you have not received this email, I can go ahead and forward it to you. You'll be able to RSVP through that email. And in this forum, you'll have support from our central division, who are the experts on this specific proposal. So I do really invite you to take advantage of this opportunity. And other than that, feel free to email me or Teal with any other questions. But those are all the updates that I have so far, and I can take questions now. Hello.
We're going to see more and more specific as we go down this road. So can we anticipate that in the next series of meetings, that we're going to see specific examples of what we're talking about?
Yeah, so each round of meetings is intended to get more specific. Right now, we are working with the consultant group, WXY, to really narrow down what the activities are going to be. But kind of like the general theme of it is going to be more of like what we've been kind of hearing, you know, some bigger maps, some more information, some more interactive tabling sessions, things like that. So we do hope it will be more specific to your concerns.
Thank you.
Will this City of Yes meeting be hybrid?
Hybrid and like, will it be in person and online?
Oh.
No, not, it's fully on Zoom, to
It's
my
fully on
understanding.
Zoom. Okay,
Correct.
okay, sorry, I didn't realize, sorry. And then also, has this been sent to the office to send to all of us?
It should have been, we can confirm. If it hasn't, then I will forward it. It was live on Wednesday.
Thank you. Happy New Year. The meeting, the City of Yes meeting, is there going to be another meeting that's during not business hours for those of us who can't do that? And also I would note that the 9th is the Governor's State of the State address around the same time. It's a little bit later. So that, you know, a lot of us will be viewing that instead of being able to be in another meeting. So
I can take that back. Thank you.
Yeah, so I know that there's going to be so there's an application for another car dealership on Northern Boulevard, but on the CB1 side, believe it's going through the BSA. How can people comment or submit testimony on that?
Where is this located?
6103 Northern Boulevard.
Yeah, this application has, I mean, it's not. The applicant team has requested to meet with us. But there's nothing as far as land use goes, as far as the BSA part of it. I can get more information to see how you can submit comment.
All right, yeah, there's a hearing early next week. Do you have to go in person, or can you submit written testimony?
I can get back to you on that. I'm not too sure. I don't want to misguide you.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks, Kenny.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now the committee votes, starting with the hybrid meeting proposal. I think there's still a lot more to discuss. I think we have to go back and find out a few things. You have a ton of comments. So I think we need a second draft at least before we can vote on anything. And of course, Mark, thanks for the technical questions. So I would like to make a motion to table until February. So Marianne, I made the motion, Ryan seconded. Can we, yes. Oh, great, okay. Sorry, which one? Oh, yep. Got it. Okay, so we'll just table this until February. Land use, is there making? Yep. Yep.
Hi, everybody. Anne Marie Baranowski. I'm just reporting on the aspect of 2310 Queens Boulevard. We've been working with both land use and arts and culture to come up with draft guidelines for what we could append, hopefully, to a developer letter that would be worked out for the use of the space. And I was going to go into detail because we were going to present a plan too, but we're not quite ready. So what I'd like to do is have the office send you a packet, which includes the draft guidelines for your comment, and also include some sketches that we did for the space that we think improves on what SLCE was showing us. And then in February, hope to have a more in-depth discussion. So that's it. Thanks.
Transportation, Mr. Matusas.
Good evening, everyone. Transportation Committee met this week. Heard from members of the community during our public comment about street safety. Recommendation was received from 2 members of the public regarding the bus redesign, and specifically about entering the Midtown Tunnel, not just ending in Long Island City. As a reminder, and please check on the website, we're nearing the end of the time to comment on the Queens Bus Final Plan redesign. So if you haven't commented, or if you have comments, please make sure you go online to the MTA. It's on the website, make your comments. I will tell you, we were very pleased down the road in Greenpoint. They heard us and they have not severed our transportation to Sunnyside. So Blissful will continue coming to Sunnyside. What else do we have here? IBX, about the train plan that's going to connect Brooklyn and Queens. there's a presentation, virtual presentation on January 18th for those concerned. That should be on the website. The committee voted unanimously to support sending DOT a request to consider connecting the greenways from the 59th Street Bridge to the Pulaski Bridge. And here we have another item that the committee voted unanimously on, that we're also seeking the support from the full board. New York State Law 1202 mandates intersections are daylight to enhance pedestrian safety by preventing vehicles from stopping, standing, or parking within 20 feet of a crosswalk or intersection. Although New York State law mandates daylighting at all intersections, New York City currently disregards this law. In order for daylighting to be effective, daylit spots need to be protected to prevent drivers from illegally parking or standing in them. Physical treatments such as bollards, boulders, bike corrals, and other elements can be used to safeguard the 20 feet. Transportation Committee voted unanimously in support of telling New York City to adopt New York State law and apply the law. We seek full support from the board here and are seeking a motion for a vote for the full board. Daylighting is a safety measure designed to improve visibility for drivers and pedestrians by removing visual obstructions at intersections. Well, you make a motion to. Here it is. Now we have.
I'd like to table it until everybody has a chance to study it, understand it completely. Although I'm sure you're giving everybody the correct information, they should understand it completely and the public should be aware of it before we vote on it.
Thank you, Stu. Debbie will be able to. No, I understand that, but we'll be able to share information with the board for them to consider. Yes, thank you.
So Steve, you brought a motion to the table that has.
It's over. Oh, now we vote. So we're casting a vote by name? Okay, we'll vote by name as it relates to supporting the motion to table.
Stevie, the motion to table was seconded by Lisa. Do you need a vote or that it's over once you made a motion to table?
That's three votes on.
Oh, okay, by name. I mean by hand.
Show of hands. Okay. Motion, everyone who agrees with the motion to table, because that's the motion that takes precedence. So everyone who agrees with the motion to table, raise your hand.
I count 13.
Everybody next to you. 1, 2, 3. Put up your hands if you're agreeing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
No, I count more. What's the? Yeah, I'm telling you, we gotta get this exact. Okay.
All those not in favor to table. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Assuming you didn't vote.
He just raised his hand, just voted.
So we don't vote, time votes. There's no decision.
You know, I didn't vote. So.
You can't sign and vote.
I cast the table. Yes,
Vote is tabled.
Thank you.
Next one.
Kello. Kello, the mic.
So I am deathly afraid that I am going to hit a bicycle rider when I turn to go down my block in Sunnyside Gardens. There are those turn lanes, they're dark. Has there been any request for special bicycle turn lights at the street lights in our neighborhood?
so I haven't heard that request before. And forgive me if I did not mention this. At the committee, we did hear from 2 committee members regarding the 39th Street Bike Boulevard regarding 2 intersections that we're going to be asking DOT to look at. They are, and I'm going to ask for help from committee members because I didn't write down. What are the 2 intersections, Dr. Ross, do you recall? 50th Street and 39th Street, and what was the second one? Thank you, 39th Avenue and 50th. I'm gonna ask DOT to look at again, and what was the other one? Yes, yes, so it'll also, and thank you for reminding me. We're going to hold a site visit, and I believe as current chair of transportation, I'll be able to invite others from the board to attend that site visit. So I open it up to members of the board who have an interest in attending that site visit. Yes, thank you. And thank you for reminding me. Yes.
I have the mic.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please.
Question, does the congestion pricing fall under your committee?
Transportation, so yes, it would.
And I guess, can you provide any like clarity on how that will affect our community board?
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
I have no expertise on it.
Is there any way that we can hear from the state, I suppose?
Yes, we can certainly take that request. I'd encourage you to attend a transportation committee meeting. I think that would be vital. Much of the information that we put on our agenda is the result of hearing from board members, participants, including the public who come, who send information to the board. Once we have the information received, we add it to the agenda. Thank you.
Danielle. But thank you. On Jackson Avenue, approaching Queens Boulevard, in front of Murray's Cheese, they seem to have cut out part of the sidewalk, I guess for deliveries. I'm not real sure, but it is frustrating when you're a pedestrian because now the sidewalk in that area is very small to walk on. I don't know how long it's been like that, but at the holiday time, it was very noticeable because there were a lot of people walking on the street.
Jackson and where?
Jackson towards Queensboro Plaza, by right where you would go over the bridge over Sunnyside Yard.
And you say someone cut out the sidewalk.
Well, not someone, like clearly a governmental
Oh, okay.
agency,
An
because it's
official thing.
professionally done, yeah. And there's also always like equipment there, like, I don't know, like, I guess, road equipment.
I will add it to our agenda.
That also does, is not helpful.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Cooper.
I'm going to repeat it to away the congestion pricing again. Today I heard on the news that Staten Island has joined in the bunch of counties and states that have put in an objection to the new law. Bronx has already done it. Manhattan is obviously not going to do it, but there's no reason why Queens should be not doing it. We should either take a position for it or against it, but we should have a voice. Okay. And, you know, I'm glad that you're taking it up, but I'd like to indicate to you that there is a time element involved here, that it's not just us who's going to have to take a position. We're going to have to get the borough president to take a position. So we should start getting recommendations.
I received that, and I do have a memory, just on a personal note, sending out information about the sessions about congestion pricing and the opportunities to provide feedback. And to your point, have we allowed water to go under the bridge months ago? So, you know, I want everyone to be realistic that the opportunity to send in feedback, I think, has passed.
But we can make recommendations tomorrow.
Understood. So, do we do motions, or what is your suggestions? Oh, understood. So please attend the committee. Thank you. Thank you. Our next meeting? It's the first Tuesday of the month. Debbie's going to tell us.
Lauren, yielding her time.
Next month, it's after the board meeting. It's the same for that.
Last one. Yes.
Is there any update from MTA on when the work on the 2 7 train stations in Sunnyside is supposed to begin? I think it's 46 and 33rd, getting the elevators. Is there any update on that
So
timeline?
there has been an update. I don't think, there on our website contains information about the timetable, but we have not received an update from MTA, nor have we seen them return to our committee since the last time.
They're coming for a redesign.
Yeah, for the bus network redesign.
Yes.
Yes. So wouldn't that be an answer, an opportunity to ask them all of these questions?
It's an opportunity to ask, but they're very specific when they usually do come. And they don't.
Yeah.
answer.
So everyone will see when we publish the agenda for the Transportation Committee meeting, it will include a visit from MTA where they're going to speak on the Queen's final plan bus redesign.
Come to the committee meeting. For all these questions.
But to Debbie's point, I'm not sure if the people coming will have information about the other information, just to be fair. Thank you.
That was the final person.
Health and Human Services.
Hi, it's just a short announcement. So our Monday meeting, the one that was scheduled for January 8th is canceled. We'll be resuming meetings February 12th. That's it.
Arts and culture? Yeah, nothing, okay. Great, and small business? Technology. Great. And environment, parks and. Yep.
Yeah, we did not meet in November or December, but I'm excited to announce that Carlos is going to be my vice chair. Congratulations. Really excited to work with you. and excited for Benji to continue representing Community Board 2 on the Queens Solid Waste Advisory Board. We will be meeting on January 25th, that's a Thursday, virtually 6:30. And we have a number of things to discuss, including the state of compost given proposed budget cuts, a proposal for porous pavement in Sunnyside Gardens to prevent and mitigate flooding, which is very exciting, and a number of other things. So definitely, yeah, come out of it. Yes.
They don't vote.
No votes. Yeah.
We make recommendations, but we don't vote.
For surfaces.
So the elected officials contacted the Department of Environmental Protection about porous pavement, and they've come back with a proposal. So they're giving well, hopefully we'll get a presentation, and learn more about it. And yeah, it's a good thing. Will do.
One question.
Got it.
Behind you.
Yes.
Robert, okay. A question, will the Astoria Park pool be open this summer? Is that something that you can look into? I think residents of CB2 are definitely also using. I think people in our community board also use that facility. It's one of the largest parks that we have access to. What would be the best way to get the information? Do you have a contact? I said, do you have a specific contact? You don't have a specific contact? Okay.
Right. Laura, did you want to, oh, sorry, Tanya, you had a question? No, okay, sorry, okay. Oh, engagement inclusion, sorry. Oh, right, it's tech and engagement and all right, bring us home, Tanya.
Thank you. So the Homeless Shelter Task Force and the Engagement and Inclusion Committee are planning a code drive for January, February, and we are kindly asking for your support for new items or fairly new items. That would be for the CB2 and house residents. Also, we're planning a winter event, meet and greet event. That would be for those who requested that couldn't meet during the summertime. So we'll be sending a doodle poll to know more about your availability. That's it. Thank you.
Two questions. I think John went first.
Just about the code drive, is there like a flyer that we could share with people? And then also where to drop it off, the contact information, timeframes, all that stuff. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
And Warren. I'm sorry, wait for the mic, please.
I know there's been a number of coat drives and clothing drives for the various shelters in our community board. I just want to make sure that we don't, even though I know there's a need all over the place, that we don't overlap those who've already gotten from the council member and other organizations in our neighborhood. We've expanded with our unhoused population here, and I want us to focus on those who have been overlooked and to see what those needs are. There are some shelters that are strictly children, mostly children and families, and there's some that are strictly all men, and there's others who are families, men and women. So think about who those clothes go to, which shelters you're looking at, and making sure that we don't overlap what's already been done, even though I know it's never enough. So just keep those things in mind. As a side note, sorry to piggyback on the unhoused, there are several CAB meetings that will be taking place at the end of this month and next month Once I get a confirmation, I'll give it to the community board. And then those who I've spoken to individually who want to attend, this is when we get to ask those questions that we can't ask. Like the migrant issues and what's being addressed there and how to address those issues. And you'll see that a lot of questions won't be answered on email, but face-to-face, a lot of those questions will be answered, and then we'll be able to tackle, help, or assist what's needed here in our area. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that brings us to the end of our meeting tonight. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming out. And sorry. Motion to, all right. Maury made it and John seconded it. That's what I saw. Have a great night.